overall budget right now, we're gonna be sitting somewhere around 27. So we have cut a few more things, just trying to look around. We're at about 1.1 that we're still trying to work out. For insurance, that was one thing, so we haven't changed that number yet, so we will see. But we're looking for about 1.1, that we got a balance here. It's okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna figure it out.
Just so y'all know, I mean, I do think that there's probably about 300,000 left out there that can be trimmed up. There's a lot of factors that we weren't prepared for. One was a new state law that went into effect. It will go into effect January 1. The governor signed it July 1st. It's a PTSD program which makes the counties liable to cover that policy based off of the amount of volunteer fire department that'll be volunteers, paramedics, EMTs, 911, jail, and sheriff's department. That's going to be roughly a $75,000 a year cost increase, and it's unavoidable. There's no way around it. We got to pay for it. It's another one of those governing mandates. Brand new program. The next one was that we wasn't prepared for was we heard from our insurance company about our renewal, which takes place, as I said, on the 18th, that we got a 25% increase.
This P&C property casualty.
Yeah. They're basically saying that, you know, we were at 300,000 last year and we're going to be at 400,000 this year.
374.
Yeah. Well, it's 400, and then we asked them to change some deductibles, and it come back to 374.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's if we increase our deductibles from $2,500 on automobiles to $10,000 on automobiles, and on structures from $10,000 to $25,000. We were actually able to save $26,000 by doing that. At that point, I made the decision to not sign the agreement and to shop that price. And so I reached out to ACCG, and it has taken Lacey 6 days every day to formulate all the stuff that we had to present to ACCG, and I just got the numbers back a minute ago. So we'll discuss that in just a little while. But there's things out there that's coming that we have never seen before. IT, a lot of the sheriff's stuff, the budget's way up, and it's way up, and it has nothing to do with the sheriff and his day-to-day operations. It is the programs and the fees that you're charging for IT has become astronomical.
Software contracts are just
the software contracts is what I mean. We went back to the sheriff's budget today and tried to cut another $100,000 out of it, which he's fully aware of, and Jeff on is too. But as of right now, if we go through with the new signing of new contracts with insurance companies, we're probably going to still be $900,000 in the red. Right now I'm at 1.1, and we ain't made no decisions yet.
Well, a little piece of good news. I'll move to adjourn.
I know, right? But now the numbers we're talking about is the M&O numbers for the millage rate. That is saying that we're going back to zero with zero increase. That's the number we're talking about. So if you think about it, Georgia Power had a 27% increase that we're having to factor in. Well, we pay several $100,000 a year in power bills. So 27% increase is a lot. You are seeing water rate increases from the cities, and we'll see all this in a minute. But overall, our guys has done a good job on keeping their budget numbers as low as possible. But the inflationary rate right now, I don't think as Susan has said, I'm sick to my stomach thinking I'm not gonna be able to go all the way back to zero, which will require 3 more budget meetings if we go over that. We could potentially go to zero, making that announcement to the newspaper tomorrow that we're gonna go to zero, and we just have to play it out. The worst case scenario in that is we have to have a budget amendment at the end of the year that we went over. I don't like doing that, but it may be a necessary need. I'm scared of what the state government may mandate between now and January that we're not ready for. Because as we all know, if they decide to give a raise to the court system, they don't mail the check, it's something we have to fund. There is talks of that in the court system.
When that happens.
On the court reform deal, if they throw out a number and the state and the governor signs it, we as taxpayers have to pay for that. They don't send a check to go along with it. So.
That's kind of what happened last September.
Yeah, we have, and I'll tell y'all that, I could not be more happy with what this board has done for 3 years now. But going into this 4th year, I don't know that we can maintain rolling back as far as we have been rolling back. I still want to do something, and I think we've got some numbers projected, but if we do that, if we only roll back what is the total rollback, 6.7, 7.6?
I think it's 6.192. 192, yeah, I think that was right.
6.1?
192.
Okay. So, I mean, even if we have to go back to just to a 1.5 may get us out of it. 2.5.
0.6.
Yeah, 0.6, yeah. And if we have to go to a 0.2, it may get us out of it. But we'll see how that matures quickly, as a matter of fact. So, with that being said, we'll start off a discussion with the water department budget. Susan, do you have anything to add before we move forward?
No, I'm good.
All right. So it looks like we're going to, there's talk of a potential water rate increase, and you see the chart showing these numbers. I don't think these numbers have been before the IDDA yet. I know there's been discussion about doing it. We're seeing them first. Oh, we're not? They've already saw them? Okay.
We proposed this twice to them already.
These numbers right here, the furthest column, proposed numbers? Okay. I mean, I knew there was some numbers floating out there. I just didn't know if we had finalized the numbers yet or voted on it. I know we voted on it. My suggestion on this would be to let the IDDA vote on it before January 1st, though.
Does the DOC have a date that they would like to request the recommendation from the IDBA by? For to recommend a rate increase or not?
You said you've already presented these to the IDBA. What was there any comments or recommendations?
So the first time I presented it, it was just requested for me to get additional information from surrounding municipalities as to what their rates are, so we can have a comparison of that. So I completed that, and there hasn't been much discussion. It's been tabled until it was just moved off of the agenda. So,
and forgive me, but at this late stage, in recognizing that the water department is going to come to us, I think that discussion needs to take place here. At the end of the day, y'all are going to be charged with doing basically what we say. So I think that's something that we need to do. There's no need to kick the can down the road because we're at the end of the road now.
So so if that's the way we want to move forward, that's fine. But but what we need to do is, if we as a BOC agrees these numbers, look accurate, then we need to reach out to the IDBA and say, okay, would y'all please move forward on that vote before January 1.
If we want to comment, I heard a presentation at the Commission of the Soil and Water Conservation Districts last week. The city of Atlanta, in an effort to encourage more wise water usage, they flipped over the way they're billing, and it made a whole lot of sense. Typically, water billing, the more you use, the lower it is per gallon. They reverse that. The more you use, the higher it is per gallon, to discourage higher usage. And particularly, I mean, we've already been in a bit of a water pinch here, so that may be a thought for you to put into, get outside our box. I think that's
We had that rate, that's what we started out with
Okay.
when I was here. And previous
Yeah.
guy changed it back to $650, $1,000, no matter how much you use.
Okay.
So,
Part of this is also suggesting that we change that $650 to $750. I know it only looks like $1 a thousand to us, but whenever they see that increase on their bill, especially if they're racking it up, watering their lawn, or
Right.
filling up pools or whatever, then that could potentially reflect a larger difference than what they're wanting to see to try to discourage that.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, just a thought as you
Yeah.
know, consider that. It's backwards from the way it's traditionally been done.
I think Jackson County does that as well,
Really?
whenever I was
Okay.
looking at their rates.
Do you
A lot
guys,
of municipalities have gone to a tiered system, and, you know, there's, you know, if you divide it into, you know, basic needs, is a certain fee for certain, you know, certain number of gallons that's estimated for the month. Then, let me just use this as an example. You don't wash your car on Saturday every time we've got a drought, you know, you might need to be paying a little bit more for that, because we need to be in the conservation mode. And then if you're watering your grass every week or filling the pool up every week, you know, you should, I say you should, it is a, you know, it's not bulk quantity, it's preservation of resource.
Right.
But it's just different.
It's a different thought process.
Yep.
Which is exactly what you had. I think I would rerun those numbers and go that route. I really would. I'd like to see that presentation, is to redo those numbers.
we was looking at it easier for billing purposes.
Do I?
Easier for billing purposes.
Just put it as a flat.
Flat rate.
it's a consistent way of billing.
Yeah.
I think.
A lot of them don't even give 3,000 for the base rate either.
That's right.
We get 3,000, they get 3,000 gallons for the base rate.
That's something else we thought about lowering it to 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then the additional start factor too. Because we still have some customers that don't use that.
Sure.
Now, the financial package that y'all use, I understand it's easier, you know, if it's just one number that's multiplied out times whatever. But in the financial package that's set up for tier billing, we used to do it, and now we don't, so it's
It's a different
Different
system.
system.
I don't
Different
know
system
if the new one is. From what I've heard about the old one, I've never seen it. This one is more advanced, so I would assume that there's probably an option in there somewhere. We would just have to work with the company and see, but I can check into it.
I think that'd be, I think, big picture, I think that's probably where you need to go. I don't want to, you know, sit here today and say, you know, here's a mandate we gotta have by January 1st,
Right.
if the infrastructure, the billing side of it can't handle it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
All right.
Do you also have different rates for commercial and stuff, residential?
Commercial, no. Industrial, yes.
How do you define it?
GRP is our own industrial.
Oh, okay.
We only have one.
So it's GRP and everybody else.
So, the example, a restaurant pays a residential, for one of the better way to describe it, pays the same rate as a residential customer. A car wash, potentially, would pay the same rate as a
The
residential
way it's
customer.
set up right now. But
That
I hear
is-
what you're saying.
Forgive me, but that is ridiculous.
The
So,
bulk rate is different, so someone that comes to purchase water from us to go and sell to fill up somebody's pool, that is $13 per thousand, so that is double what it would be per thousand for an individual if they went over the 3,000. But I agree, and I think that that is something that we should look into.
That's just a business decision, like, pick on our neighbors, Athens, Clark County. In Athens, Clark County, if you open a business, you're gonna have the minimum of one each water meter. It doesn't matter if it's a business with one toilet in it, you're still gonna get a one each water meter. And I think that's something that we will be looking for you guys to bring. I personally could endorse you guys bringing that to this group, because I see a lot of what the other counties are doing. An example would be a temporary water meter for a construction site. That rate is substantially more than what a residential customer could pay or should pay.
so why don't we see, or why don't you check in and see what the limitations to the program is, see what our options are. Can we break this out, and is it something that's user-friendly to break out? As the county moves this over, and obviously we know that there's gonna be added cost that comes with that, with equipment and potentially more manpower and stuff. There's gotta have to be a way to offset that cost some by the users. You know, we're not, the whole goal behind moving the water department over here was so we could better fund future projects also, and not just do it off the millage rate alone. But we're gonna have to have some help at it. I know both of you know what we're saying and what Dennis and Terry and Derek said. So let's look at our potential possibilities and do that.
And Stephanie Daniels still, unless they've changed it, and I don't think they have, theirs is tiered in that manner, because that was what they expected us to do when we went to the USDA.
And it's also different for like residential versus.
Correct. You have
Absolutely.
commercial, you have,
We pay $183 a month.
Yeah.
How much water is off it, so, you know,
Right.
no, it's different.
but it was tiered that way
Mhm.
due to the USDA ruling
Right.
that they wanted us to.
Yeah, the government tier is high.
Yes.
There's a reason for it, but it's high.
Well, ask this question, as you're looking into it, and I want to be respectful of the effort that goes into all this, that's what I'm trying to say first. With timing coming up and be able to answer questions that we feel comfortable moving, you know, if there's a rate increase, then you've got the more complex conversation of the, you know, what type of customer you are and all that kind of good stuff. Knowing that the transition's moving over to, does it behoove us just to look at a rate adjustment currently for kind of like budget next calendar year, and then when, after the transition is made, then dig in a little deeper, instead of trying to jam everything in the next month?
Well, I mean, I think we have 5 months. I mean, I think, we're going to need a rough idea of what we're gonna be looking at. You may have missed it, right before you got here. Right now, we are standing at about, $1.1 million in the red for 2025. So we think, and we've shaved, I mean, boys, when I tell you, they ain't no fat on nothing, they ain't no fat left. We think we can get down to 900 on the last couple budget issues. We're at least going to have some kind of ballpark. Right now, you have a ballpark of about 55 miles, so that helps.
It does help.
Yeah, that's going to help. Anything above that, fine.
And that
Oh, and that
number's
does
not
not-
in here.
Yeah, and that also does not include the bottom section, where if we increase the rate for tap and meter fees. whenever we go out and start. So that's just off of what I projected the increase would be off of monthly bills alone. And that's only for our 3/4 meters. So the usage on anything higher than a 3/4 meter was such a wide range, which is kind of, broke down, well, no, that's just 3/4 meters, but it was such a wide range, it was hard for me to capture a number on that as to what that would be. But 16,000, or 1,648 of our 1,700 customers are 3/4 meters. So it's pretty close, but you will definitely expect to see a higher number, because it's our customers that have larger meters than 3/4.
Does this take into account anticipated new customers?
So this is just what we have right now. It's only what we have right now.
What's your new customer count per month there?
New staff.
Yeah, just curious, I know that's something that's regularly happening.
We had 5 in the last 2 weeks,
Yeah.
5 or 6. They come and go.
And then some months, around Christmas time, we'll have hardly any, but, people are building it out, not working on it now, so
I'm just curious if that was enough,
Yeah.
if it was 10 a week or.
All right, moving on to y'all's budget. So we didn't have really much to go on, you don't have much to go on, because this is all sort of brand new for the past 2 years, really. Obviously, we didn't cut anything from your budget, because we don't have a history to look back at, so we're having to trust those numbers.
Well, Stephanie did provide the 2023 ending balances, which I did drop in the expenses and the revenues for you. And then she provided the 2024s, and for you, that was through current or like 6 months. How did you do?
So 2024, that column is what's January through June. And then 2023, I did have a couple of updates from that, as well as updates on the 2025 department requested line in that column.
Okay.
So whenever I originally pulled these numbers, that was before the audit and before I did some journal entries. But some of those numbers are a little bit different. What you guys may be seeing is a little bit different, but the total at the bottom is close to the same.
One of the questions I had on this, on my copy, it's highlighted in red, y'all might not. On the supply of the meters and fittings, Rodney, how many are you stocking?
We usually keep 48 3/4 meters on hand, because those quickest. We don't keep nothing else in stock.
Gotcha.
Days we go.
Now, on the warranty on those 48 meters, does it go into effect when you install them?
It goes into effect when we buy.
Yeah.
And we go through them, probably 2 or 3 months.
You go
4 or 5
through
months.
48, y'all had 48 meters a month,
Well,
or change outs?
Change outs and stuff, I think just these customers, that's
Gotcha.
a lot of change out.
Do you know what our lifespan on the meters looks like right now?
They last 10 years, they got 10-year warranty on the register, 20 years on the meter.
How many has been changed out of their current within the past 3 or 4 years?
We've probably got only maybe 100 that's old
Left?
left to replace.
Okay.
We replaced a lot, they had a recall on them
Okay.
back in 2021, 22. Had 800 something registered to change that. And we're changing some of them, still changing some out. We got 4 now, we got to change that before we work. But I'm,
Yeah. The reason I asked that question, because if the warranty starts on the day of purchase, I just want to make sure we didn't have too many on hand, because if it's a year before you install them, you lost a year's worth of warranty.
well,
That's really nice.
the problem is getting,
Oh, is it?
I waited on these for 6 months.
Really? Great.
So if I didn't have them, they'd be sitting there on the shelf.
So your 48 pretty much is a 2 to 3 month
Yeah.
supply. So
Yeah.
they're turning them
Well, it was, I guess, originally because we were replacing so many, but now we're to the point where we have the majority of them called up, that every month whenever we read and write it comes back, we're like, okay, this is our list of no reads, go out and check them. And like you said, 4 or 5 of those had to be replaced out of that 7 this time.
So, do you think there's any way our 100,000 numbers there could we shave anything off of that?
Just depending on how much we grow it.
Well, I know, and the reason I'm asking that is because, I mean, and again, it's hard, because in 23, the ending total, we spent about 28,000, but already this year, you guys have spent 50. So it was hard for us trying to come up with a number here.
Now, is this, meters and fittings, like, the big meters also too, like GRP or a new well?
I mean, it's gonna be anything that you're purchasing when it comes to your meter and fittings. Yeah.
Any supplies
Any
associated
supplies,
with them.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what you had that line, right?
Yeah.
They have a line that supplies for water, just water supplies.
Yeah, but it's just
Yeah, but that's
chemicals.
more like your chemicals and all of this, and believe me, that runs the bill too.
Are we gonna consider, like, when you bring your new wells online, that's essentially a capital project, isn't it? So, I mean, wouldn't that money, capital's not in here, is it? Isn't that the way we're handling the other departments?
Well, capital is any new structure. Meter changing out for just replacement of used materials is not necessarily capital.
Correct.
It's more of a,
That's just what your repairs and maintenance.
Yeah, they bring the big wells online.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
your
not
well
being a
online
brand
is
new one
capital,
online, it's a project,
Yeah.
and it is capitalized, yes. And it goes into the capital, but
It is not presented as.
Repair and
it's
maintenance.
not presented in this budget.
Yeah, how often do you have to change a meter on one of our wells, Ron? You just, once a year?
There's one down there that's, rolled over twice on Medico.
Been on there for a long
It's
time.
been there a while. That's what I want to know, if it says, well, water infrastructure, is that including the meters for it?
Okay, which line?
It's under contract labor.
Well,
Down
first
the
page.
bottom, it's repair and maintenance.
Only repair and maintenance of the
So that
water?
wouldn't be considered a new well?
No, no,
That'd be different.
no,
Yeah.
that's gonna be different.
That's the
This
upkeep
is
of your
just
current
upkeep.
well.
This is just your upkeep,
And the
So
same
if
way
we
with the
did
line
need a
above
meter
it.
for that, it would come out of that repair and
correct,
maintenance.
that's the repair and maintenance line,
Right.
correct.
So I want,
The revenue here, is it based on the recommended rate increase? It's
The
not,
revenue,
yeah.
the revenue is not based on this recommendation, no, we haven't put that in there.
So if, at what was just shown today, then that would potentially add another $55,000 to income.
To the income,
Yeah.
correct, potentially, yes, but
I'm
we didn't put
seeing
that
right now
in.
roughly $500,000 to the good.
yes.
That's good news.
Yeah.
In this
Ariel,
department,
Well,
in this
Today is
department,
a good news.
let me say this, we all recognize what the numbers mean, but that's $500,000 to the good on a new department that
It's $12 million.
we need to be of the mindset that that's startup capital for a new department.
Oh, absolutely.
Not that we can take it and use it somewhere else just because,
Right.
That's correct.
yeah, you know, I mean, in my mind,
And that does not have the debt picture in it.
that is part of the cost of doing business, and that's what this is, to me.
Now,
But that is encouraging that we are here.
Yes.
we raised the, wage regular. I don't think y'all see that, the way she's, defined it out here. Project field and 2 office staff. We raised, I don't know where. I don't think that's high enough. I know we had talked about, getting you another man in the field.
Right. And that was the number that we discussed, you and I discussed, because you wanted to go to 4 in the field and 2 office, right?
Yeah,
And that's reflected in the budget.
yes. That's why it's higher than what they requested directly.
Yeah.
Admin recommended versus department request.
I think what I sent over was the 285 on this one.
On the original, it could have been, I think in the stuff that you had
But
sent.
now I have it all grouped together, so,
Yeah.
because it was broke down on one, but on the last one, I sent was the 285.
Payroll right here. Actually, you had it at 285
Okay.
on your proposed, when we first came to that very first meeting. And then, at that point, we were all basing it on the staff we currently had, so then we went down a little bit in that first time that we did it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, after Todd looked at it, he's like, no, because we really want to hire one more, let's go back to that 285. So that was what we went back to. Because again, we only had just a few numbers to base on.
Very
Do
good.
you know what time Callaway's gonna be there?
It'll be between 4:45 and 5 o'clock.
All right. I really don't have any other questions.
So from a staff standpoint, the 4 field and 2 office staff. So remind me what those 6 job titles are.
So right now I'm the office manager, and then I have an administrative assistant.
Okay.
Rodney's the water superintendent. Rusty is the sewage plant operator. And Mark is a field agent, GPS coordinator. And so the 4th one, what we're looking for is an equipment operator who could also be licensed potentially in water, sewer, or both.
Somebody younger.
Somebody's knees ain't good,
In all respect to Rodney, currently we got one guy that can run equipment. I mean, if we needed to set a mini X on the ground and dig a 50-foot line, they gotta call him to do it, if he's on vacation.
And I'm not necessarily opposed to it, I think it's forward thinking though, is we're pulling this thing over here, and so that is a department as a standalone, with a department head that can focus on programming big picture, not just the day-to-day operation, so, you know, is that number enough?
Well, I don't know, and this is for this board to decide. I think the number that I put out here was to hire a guy for about $25 an hour as an operator, whether he's got license, whether he don't, and if he goes to get licensed, well, then that'll increase as the time comes. I think that's how we figured it, because a good operator right now is going to cost you about $25 an hour. I don't know as far as taking it to the next level that you spoke of. It's a potential. It's a potential. If you guys want to look at it, I'm fine with that.
I agree. I think it's probably a smart move eventually. My thinking short term, as we do this transition, I think we handle just the transition. We just work on the day to day as we make the transition, and then we move forward after that. I just think that out.
I'd like to get my head wrapped around what it's gonna look like once we're truly running, besides just maintaining, because right now we're in maintain mode. When we turn it up to the point where we actually start doing some of our own installs besides just replacements and maintaining, that may go to a new level. I don't know that we'll be there right out the gate. I agree with you. I do think we're gonna get there, and probably quickly, personally.
Well, I would have to agree, I guess, with Derek here, because potentially we've got two projects that are on the horizon right now, one being the water line to the feed mill, the other being whatever takes place over here at the Madison West type thing. And essentially, I mean, in my mind, we need to have someone from our group, which right now would be Rodney, that's looking at this stuff. I mean, that's just common sense, you know. I'm a contractor, and you don't turn a contractor loose to do whatever he wants to and then tell you when he's done. You know, I mean, you know, I conceded that a long time ago. So, and that is something that if we're not gonna entertain that this year, at some point, we're gonna recognize that somebody's got to be in charge. And, which should encourage us to get somebody on board for this equipment operator, but also to hold the operator's license for our facilities. And who could that be? I mean, in essence, Stephanie could. There's two sides to the equation. There's this side and the side out in the field. And I would really like to see more than one person holding licenses.
Well, we sort of got that right now. Rodney and Rusty both have licenses. The key to it is speaking of what you and Derek was talking about, is inevitably what Rodney is going to be. Boy, I gotta get somebody to get Rodney off the tractor right now. So that's our mindset, is Rodney, even from speaking for the IDBA board, Rodney is the point person to oversee that these jobs are done by a contractor and done it correctly. So I see what both sides are saying. I do, and we can get there. But if you guys want to throw a number out here, you're welcome to. Just keep in mind the overall pictures. I'm $1 million short right now.
Well, you just gotta figure out if at what point in 25 where do you think you're gonna be? I mean, because you gotta bring this new person in, you gotta, get acclimated to everything. If you hire someone that has the license, has, the operator's license, get them trained up. I mean, are we looking that something would shift sometime in 25, or is it more likely to happen the first of 26?
Well, you're working on your second license now, and I think that'll probably be fulfilled by the end of 25. Well, at least that would be my hopes.
Hopefully by the end of this year.
That's correct. But worst case scenario, we fall back to next year's time frame. You're talking about two different people. The guy with the guy you go hire with the water and sewer license is not the guy that's going to be on backup. Guaranteed. Those really don't exist anymore that you can find and or afford, because now you're paying for 3 items. So concentrating on him finishing his, moving up to not necessarily the white glove position, but at least to a position to where he can oversee, I think we'll be confident in. So from now, I'm looking at I'm looking for the guy that can sit in the backhoe or the woman that can sit in the backhoe and be operational to take you out of that seat.
Well, you're gonna have to add something to that figure now.
Huh?
You're gonna have to add something to that $285,000.
To get somebody else.
Cause you just went up $35,000 from there, from 2023's actual budget. And if you pay somebody $25 an hour, that's $50,000 a year.
I think we're looking at the present over here. Presently, if we doubled that number right there, that's 250,000, and we're at 285. So yeah, $25 an hour is more than $35,000. It's more like $41,000. No, actually, it's more than that.
51,000.
Yeah. So yeah,
51,500.
I would move it to an even round 300 if it was me. Whatever. 21 times 2,080.
To make sure I'm hearing your thoughts correct. You're thinking about, what if I was hearing right, you're thinking about a system planner, not necessarily a project overseer, but somebody looking to see where the water system needs to be, water and sewer system needs to be down the road. Is that the position you were talking about?
I mean,
In your mind, how much, where we are, how much of that can be done by as part of the county planner position that we have discussed for,
In different
in
scopes of
planning.
work completely.
I mean, I think they're collaborative conversationists, you know, and they're on the same team.
Yeah.
But I think when you get down to the task at hand, I mean, even if we bring somebody to sit on the backhoe that we're talking about,
Yeah.
get that person in, whatnot, then you've also, you know, you got somebody that works, you got the licensors, you got the office manager and office staff. It takes all that to operate the day-to-day
Right,
operations.
right.
Now, sooner or later, we got to get somebody
Plan.
that can, like, start looking, like, with collaboration. I'm not saying they're just out there on their own, but, you know, as a department person that can start looking for those additional well sites, have time to meet with people, have time to meet with real estate, have time to go talk to EPD about whatnot, have time to start looking at that 50-year picture that we talked about, that we know we got to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody in this building that can do that right now. And it's gonna take a skill set that we've not had before. We're pulling this department over, it's roll back. I mean, that's what it is, roll back. And we got to get to that person that can collaborate with those different communities, those different visionaries. And that, part of that is, again, going back and looking at, you know, what those rates are. We're gonna get on, annually, kind of conversations and talking. Goes back to having that conversation with, with the planning part, where are we seeing that growth? What do we need to be projecting for? What's our 5-year, 10-year work plan look like? We need to be having that conversation with the school board. It's just a whole next level of, I need my I need my well to work today versus how many wells I need in the future. And you can't be working on the well and then out there planning also at the same time.
But to answer your question, I believe if I heard it correctly, the planning person for zoning and planning is not the same person
No.
that looks at the expansion of water and sewer system development.
And you're right, that's the question I was asking. But again, thinking out loud, in our infancy where we are, would it be fair to potentially let that happen, but knowing that within a year or 2 years, and what I hear us do, and I really like, we're thinking, we have, as a group, we've been trying to think 20 years and 50 years down the road, and what I hear is us moving in that direction. That's a question for me. The question for me is just, is that something we do today, or is it, or where we are in this transition, does it become something we look at 6 months to 1 year down the road? Can it patch through for 6 months, letting that planning person have part of that role now while we know we're looking for that planner for the water system, water and sewer system eventually? We're just asking those questions.
I've got no grand vision that, like, on January 1st, we gotta have somebody in the seat. That to me is not got to happen. Susan was gonna allude to the fact, when would you expect that? We make the transition, we work out those bugs, we work out whatever. In 6, 7, 8 months down the road, we need to make a last quarter budget adjustment. Or we'd say, this is what we're gonna do as we're doing next year's budget, and go ahead and hire them. If we got the right person, we make that budget adjustment in September, or August, or November to pay for 2 months. I mean, I think that's common. I'm just saying there's looking at what today is and looking at this is gonna be a big fix.
Yes, I agree, and that timeline you described just fits exactly into my thinking. So in next budget year's discussion, we're thinking that absolutely gonna happen, and if we find that right person in September, then we'll make the adjustment. If not, we plan on that being part of the picture January 1, 26.
Yeah.
And if it can happen sooner, then, yeah.
We're probably about 2 years, maybe, away from probably having an in-house engineer. In realistic terms, we're gonna need one by that point. So I do think both of you are correct. I think the discussion's correct, and I think the time frame is also correct. So, make that original change up there to represent 25.
Okay, I did 302.
Okay,
Because basically 25, that gives you 52.
okay,
Rounded from 250 to that, 302 is what I come up with.
okay.
Stephanie and Rodney, I want to tell y'all, from the place I sit, I appreciate the effort that y'all have put into this. The transition period, not only from the side of trying to determine where you guys are at in the transition, but also facilitating this so we have a better understanding of the day-to-day stuff. I do sincerely appreciate that.
Yep.
Now, going back to the question, 25 times 2080, whatever that number is, what about fringe and benefits? If setting this up as
You've got to bump that number too.
Oh, yeah, that'd change all the way down the column.
what's the account name I'm trying to come up with?
Go ahead, please.
Defined benefits?
No,
I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about. You talking about like a fringe benefit, or are you
The fringe-
talking about the?
all the benefits gotta be calculated somewhere.
Correct,
With
and
that,
they will be.
with that said, that goes in, instead of a general fund budget number, it goes into the department fund budget because it needs to be.
Correct.
God,
There's a couple other catalysts that'll come along with it, is when you hire the other person, you're going to end up with another truck. You got Social Security, you got workers' comp, you got insurance liabilities, all
You got
that will have to
pension,
be factored in.
you got all of that.
Yeah, which we can run those numbers, Tracy can run those numbers.
It'll operate as like its own little, profit loss center, and that's.
Right.
Okay, yeah,
What's the?
you're correct.
There's a term.
Yeah. Now I can't say it. Proprietary, man, I can't get it out.
That's proprietary.
Proprietary fund instead of just a general fund.
Yeah.
Yes, you're correct.
That's what I'm
Each
trying to-
budget is that way in itself, but that's the way we're set up with it as the
Well,
budget.
But not every department
But not
makes
every
money,
department
and
is
it's not
like-
supposed to,
Absolutely, yeah.
not supposed to
No,
generate
I mean,
revenue.
correct. So
Looking at
this,
like enterprise.
this.
Enterprise fund, that's exactly what I was looking for.
But,
This would be enterprise fund.
yeah,
Well, that's what we were talking about for audit purposes. This is set up like an enterprise fund. It has a single little audit, like the transfer station is an enterprise fund.
correct. That's what I was about to say. So basically.
I would've never come up with that. I just wasn't even thinking down that road.
I know.
Well, I was thinking enterprise, but I was thinking that, I thought he was talking about defined benefits.
Well, see, I thought he was talking about benefits too. That's why.
Well, I was to get, is that the right number to plug in
Yeah.
versus
Well,
you've got salaries, and if we're holding like benefit, an account for benefits somewhere else.
no.
And if it's all in
It'll
here,
be
it
all
needs to be, it needs to
It'll
be.
all, well, now, actually, no. That, the answer is yes, it will, but the way this county books are set up right now, all of the employee benefits actually does go rolling back up into the non-departmental general fund for the benefits, because that's the way they had chose to do that. Now, at the end of the year, we can make a journal entry to move it all back, if that's what they choose
Yeah,
to do.
just for reference purposes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But to answer you, yes, this fund, the water and the solid waste, both, when you go look at financials, they're always gonna show up under those enterprise funds, because those are the funds that should be making some money to sustain themselves, yes. Those are the two that the county has that would do that. The other funds are just general funds.
Yeah, but like right now, the way we were talking earlier, those numbers aren't in here.
No. No. The benefits are not in this department. You're not seeing them right here. You're gonna see them in the big non-departmental, just because that's the way it's set up.
All right, on your capital projects, I know you've got the elevated tank on the Commerce end. I know we potentially talked about the elevated tank. Have we looked at the potential, and I know we're sort of hesitant on this because we're waiting on that feasibility study to come back to try to see if we're going to split our water systems and our water pressures. Is it more cost is there more cost savings than going with a ground tank and putting pumps, because of that end of the system up there has such low water pressure because of the elevations?
That'd be a good question to figure out.
Okay.
I told you a price of a 300,000 gallon tank, elevated, 300,000.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking at 3 million.
Yeah, for an elevated. I'm asking about the ground storage tanks with adding pumps.
Well, that 3 million gallon down there at GRP was right at 3 million too.
Okay.
So then you gotta add pumps and electricity and all that.
Gotcha. Maintenance. What was our maintenance cost on the ground tank?
I think generally
To
speaking,
clean.
to add pressure, elevated tanks are still, I mean, you can do them with pump, but you just, you know, something happens in the middle of the night, you lost it. Now, to add pure volume, I think ground storage tanks, because you're just trying to get that mass. So, I think that's why you see both of them in different systems.
Okay. I don't know, based off what we found in the past 2 days, I don't know that can happen without some kind of grants, just to be honest. I also don't know on the CDBG, well, I know it won't qualify for CDBG. But I'm trying to stay on topic. I'm gonna look at this. I shouldn't have mentioned CDBG because now I'm thinking something different. The hydrovac trailer, tell me about that.
That's something we can take out there and find phone lines that's buried where we're not getting.
Oh, gotcha.
We can actually dig a ditch with it. You know, if you had 4 or 5 lines, you can dig a ditch with it, lay the water line in there. I think the road department could use it too. And if we had a leak, it would suck all the muddy water out. We wouldn't have to shovel it out.
All right. I know locate companies has just about gone to the point of, they just wasted spray paint.
Well, I did one this morning, and I had one mark on one side of the road, and the other side didn't have no marks on it.
Yeah, I know.
So, if you had that hydrovac, you could do both sides right quick, and see if there's anything there left. If it is, I'm gonna look at it.
There's several things going on in the background. I'm trying to handle it. I apologize. Just, is he there yet?
He's on it, I mean, yeah, he said
Okay.
he'd be there fine.
If you had you got a quote on this. What, sir? You got a quote on hydrovac.
I got somebody told me to quote on one, but I think it was a gas burner. I think we would need a diesel because it would set one that would operate with gas. and, talked to I don't know how we could buy off of Gov Deals. They own there all the time. So if we could buy one off of there, it might save us some money. About 75,000 for a diesel. Right.
All right. The board machine multi-lane, I know one we have right now covers 2 lanes. I guess you're talking about something to do, maybe shoot all the way under 29 or something up there.
I was looking at, if you wanted us to lay water lines and start in business, we'd have to have one to go on the driveways and stuff. It does 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch. Pretty well casing in.
What do we have currently? How far?
A mold, fire mold,
I know, but how far does it shoot?
I can go 50 foot.
50 foot.
Yeah, but it's.
3
small.
inches.
Yeah, small folks too, but
And it's just
You got a price on that yet?
I got it.
No, the multi-lane.
No, sir.
Any ideas?
I'd probably say 200,000 or better.
Y'all kidding.
Well, let's get to it.
I mean, but we'd have to have a lot of help to do that.
How often are we trying to do that in-house?
That'd be the question.
How many
I'd measure that
applications
by
of that a year do we get?
What does it cost us to pay somebody to do it versus?
Well, you looking at that, he's doing that, mold for, the fire training facility. It's like 45,000 to go on that rate.
You charging 45,000 on that road? With a 12-inch line though.
That's an 8-inch line, but he's got a bore of 12-inch hole to get, or 16-inch hole to get in. And then he's setting the 2 balls.
Why is there, is he casing it?
He's casing.
All right,
It's like $300 a foot.
all right, let's acknowledge the fact that that's a self-project. That's for our training facility.
Yeah.
If that was Kmart, that expense would be charged, that'd be their cost to install, so, I mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to.
Like if we want to do that down to the feed mill in-house, we'd have to have one of them to do it. With all the driveways down through there.
Would that be a contract? I mean, I guess in my mind, that'd be a contractor job.
Well, that's
Well,
what,
he's saying if we decide to do it in-house, if he had the manpower to run a 1,000-foot water line, this way he could have the manpower to bore the driveways as you go to save the cost of the contractor. Because we're actually gonna do it on a 1/3 cost basis. I mean, it may be worth looking at. Because we are talking about
you talking about
getting our water department to the point that we can run stuff that we contract out now, just because we don't have the equipment or the manpower. I mean, you can't contract your way into a bigger system, you just can't afford it. You're gonna have to do something in-house. Driveways is an issue, but again, cutting the driveway and putting it back may be a cheaper issue to dig through it. I don't know yet, we'll talk about it.
well, you got roads you'd have to go under too.
Who?
Roads,
Yeah,
you know. And you cut through them too.
worst case scenario, yes, sir. We gotta deal with fights every day.
State roads.
When you
They don't like you.
when you deal with fixed machinery like this, we just need, and what the right answer is, obviously, we don't have the information to answer here today. But, from your perspective, what I need to hear from you is a realistic comparison of what it costs, in a given year, what we typically spend, and you can't just assume the cost of the machine, because if you also got the operation of that machine, the maintenance of that machine, the piping and everything else that goes whenever you're going under, that would be included in somebody's contract price.
Right.
That's gonna add to. So if that's a $200,000 machine, that still doesn't tell the story.
Right.
That's what we just need to be, make sure we're thinking through that as we get to the point of making that decision.
I would like to have a hydrant back though. I mean, that'd be I think a plus for us.
And please don't think I'm trying to discourage you there.
Oh,
I'm just
no.
saying that's just the reality is just the purchase price of the machine is not all the story.
So have we ever contracted to use a hydrovac?
Mm-hmm.
What does that cost roughly?
I think he gets $250 an hour, minimum 4 hours.
It's $1,000 to show up.
Just show up.
I I mean, these are just numbers I need, so thank you.
You just, you have to plan around their schedule, have water line for them,
Oh, yeah.
service line.
All right. Any other questions for the water department, Joe? Any other questions or any other questions or statements?
I do have a few lines that I think that it needs to be increased on. I didn't,
Okay.
this is our first time doing this, so we don't really know when to say what or when to ask for what. So forgive me if I'm saying it at the wrong time.
You're okay.
So the third line down, the overtime line, last year we came in at $16,070. Right now, we do have several of our employees that are doing strictly comp time, and we're already at $7,000 in overtime.
Half a year.
We didn't have option for comp time in 2023. We had to get over
I think in 22.
And you foresee that the overtime is gonna be pretty consistent? Because, I mean, what you're saying is right now you have employees that are working the overtime, but they're comping it to try to.
You call it that time and a half.
Will adding the additional person to the field, that offset some of that?
it. It would. So, some things happen after night, after hours.
And when they take that comp time, you gotta fill in somebody else to cover their job.
Yeah. All right, we'll look at that tomorrow, so just make a notation for that.
I thought maybe around 18 would be a good area.
That's what you're
Just a little,
thinking.
but not,
Yeah.
I think so. And then we can still encourage, if you want to, take home.
Would you classify, and I'm not criticizing, I'm just trying to understand. Like the overtime today, would y'all classify most of our overtime is, night, emergency, weekend type, something happens, we got to deal with it, or is 50% of it or half of it just, we gotta get a couple of extra hours in just cause we ain't got enough manpower to get things we need to do in our normal 40-hour week?
A little bit of both.
I would say half.
Well, that's fair, I'm just trying to get my head
For
around.
reconnect, and I did make a little note on mine too, after I stated the amount that I thought we should increase, and then, that's for on-call shifts, and then after hours, leaks or reconnect. And I just wanted to note as well that anytime there is an after-hour reconnect, there is a fee associated to that customer, so some of that is coming back in there too.
No problem.
I like, what
Sure.
is the reconnect fee after hours?
I think it's
75.
You pay a 2-hour minimum?
Depending on what we're doing. If it's like 4:30, we wouldn't.
Is there a real reason? I mean, do you do all reconnects? If somebody calls after hours, do you kind of assess, well, that'll be in the morning, or no, we'll send somebody right now? I mean.
So most of the time, the reason for that is because they were disconnected during the day, they just got home from work, they just signed it out, so they pay, and then we can check on our work phones to make sure that they pay before we send anybody out. And then you give us an option, if you want it now, this is the price, otherwise it'll be in the morning, there's
I think that's absolutely appropriate, just make sure that price covers what it costs you.
And that can definitely be adjusted, we haven't touched it since I started, and that could be something that's looked at too, and I think that's another way that we could increase revenue, is increase some of those fees.
And not try to make it a penalty,
Right.
to make sure it does cover the cost you have to go out there.
We're just trying to.
Well, no.
Just general reconnect fees, for non-payment, I think that that's something that could be looked at as well, and maybe do that tiered also.
We did in Dangersville, we had no choice.
Yeah.
But what we learned was, if you don't come back out, you'll be surprised how they start getting on time.
Exactly.
Well,
And that's kind of where I was
Piedmont gives
leading.
24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Piedmont Water, they won't come meet back 24
but
hours.
it's causing every.
I get it. No, I get it.
Talking to the mama in you.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Mama in
but
the heart, I'm like, let's go to mom.
No, I get it.
It is
Okay, I
hard.
do like the idea that you have an alternate if you want to pay the extra. I think that's a great idea.
Right.
We all need to sit in with Lamar Dolphin down there for a couple of days while he puts some old ladies out in snow.
It's okay, I'll just make sure somebody's gonna turn the water back on. I like that better.
And what he's saying is true.
That's wrong.
Sometimes, it really isn't any different than the snowstorm came, the ice storm came in Georgia, and the power was out. You will figure out how to get through it in 24 hours.
Yes.
And then they show up the next morning and cut it off. But once it happens, they're very mindful to be there on time.
Right.
That's the least bill they have to pay, and they can't make
Yeah.
it most of the time.
Well, you're gonna
And it's
find,
not
and
being-
you're gonna find, as soon as you have this increase, you're gonna think the world ended. I've done been through these. Even though, again, it's the cheapest bill they pay. Their water bill is 1/10, 9 times out of 10, what the cell phone bills is.
I mean, I don't want it to be
Like tearing, don't get me wrong,
No,
but for
correct.
example, you know, we got a notice just because the post office didn't deliver my escrow check to my insurance company, so like, you know, I mean, like, so, yes, we're making the phone call saying I can bring you a check, and they're like, no, don't worry about it just yet, but I understand things happen. I guess my point being is, I appreciate the opportunity if somebody has made a mistake, we can correct it for them. Yes, there should be a cost for it, but I also want to be on the, you know, reconnect fee check number one, and then, you know, 8 months, 10 months down the road, if it's that same account, you know, reconnect fee, oh, I forgot to get it to you again. Well, you know, we'll see you in the morning. I mean,
We tiered the city of Gainesville. First time was $75, second time was $100, third time it's $100.
He's gonna be running for tax commissioner.
That's how we
It
tiered.
went up because.
But you'll also see how many people start doing automatic draft,
Low
because they don't
level,
want
like
to figure.
that. Where's my
I mean,
money?
And it's, I know what you're saying, because I've been on.
All right.
We don't cut them off the first time we miss. We call and.
Exactly.
We do call, and they have to be at least 2 months behind. I don't want to cut no more mistakes water off.
And we should, but.
Well, and that's not what we're sitting in there to do. It's just that at the same point, you have to be mindful of taxpayer dollars.
All right. Well, thank y'all. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There's a couple more. Okay, extermination service, Susan, I gave you the wrong number. It's actually $29 a month, not 28. So it did increase to, and I can send you a copy of this too, Susan, if you need it, to $348 instead of $336.
And I just fixed that one, because
Okay,
I do
perfect.
fix that.
The cell phone, so we pay $473 a month right now, and that is for 4 work phones and then all of our SCADA systems. I don't know what's reflected on y'all, but last year we paid $5,084, and then we're also gonna be adding on, a SCADA system at Waffle House, and then at the New Wells.
Yeah.
So that is projected increase, and then we got 2 iPads for whenever we're doing our well numbers and our counts that we take with us, and then for Mark for GPSing, so he can do that.
And we
So,
increased that one.
That, okay, good deal. The dues and fees line, that one, I think that we need to increase because, that one has the annual renewal in there. I'm assuming that's where I put that line item. It's a little bit different on mine. But to renew all of the GPS and software.
Okay, I did
So-
have that in there.
Last year, we spent $5640.
50 what?
$5640.
Okay, and that is, so is that like a license or just the annual support to the software?
I think it's the support. It's not licensed.
No.
Yeah, I think it's just the support and all the data where it's housed.
Okay, so
That would mean
that,
the ability to go out
County
and.
phone system.
You can get closer, you got it, $2 plus, you can get even closer.
it should, yeah.
Than you can pay for it.
So basically, it's a software that you're using. So actually, I don't think we did discuss that. But that will fall under
We had,
our,
Susan and I had talked about
under the
that.
IT section.
Okay.
Next
Which is
year,
like we're talking-
we'll carry all of the software maintenance under the IT for tracking, so I will need to add it there. Is there any other software purchases you're paying?
Yeah.
Because I know I added your, I did Adobe and I did your billing software.
And then, that's it besides the GPS.
Okay,
Harmony. Do we put the harmony? No,
okay. All right.
nothing, everything.
So I'll add this to that 14.
If y'all come up with anything else, just let Susan know in the morning, email or any other changes.
Okay.
All
Do
right?
you think we could reach out to Verizon to see, if there'd be a cost decrease for the BOC to take over all of the IDA?
Yeah.
The whole Verizon account?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, I actually put a note in there that honestly, I think we might be able to decrease some of what the cell phones for sure we had talked about. Did you call about it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you already done that?
Yeah, that's already taken care of.
So we did do that. Okay. Did they look at your cost on the SCADAs to see
They
if
weren't
that?
able to adjust that, but they were able to add it to where it's recognized as like, or
It's a public safety,
safety.
so
So
it
if
comes
something
off
happens
first.
and it goes off, it comes off first.
Okay,
And then the only other big one was the electricity bill.
yeah.
What did y'all have it down as on yours?
Oh, let's see.
Yes, sir. No problem.
So we dropped that in there, 87,000.
Okay, something that I don't know if we thought about, last year we spent 82, but this year we're gonna have New Well and the Waffle House lift station on. So I was thinking maybe raise it to around to raise it maybe 10,000 from the 82 to maybe do 92.
So maybe we'll get it 92.
And that's a guesstimate, you know, I don't know
Oh, I know.
until we get it online.
Okay, so it was Waffle House and
And the new James Holcomb.
the new
And we should have a better estimate before we go into next year on that, because some of that will go on this year. And we can look at it before, before 25 starts.
Well, all we can do at this point is give it our best guess. So, but yeah, we can look at that. And then Rodney, you still felt like the 100,000 on that supplies, meter and fittings needed to sit?
I would think so.
Okay, all right.
But to Denny's point, he mentioned earlier, that we're looking at roughly $20,000 overage here. That does not negate, that stays water department.
It does. And
It does.
And what me and Frank was just talking about was, there's where you could potentially get a hydrant back. There's where we could potentially, if we all do the numbers, as requested, and maybe the bore machine, maybe, I don't know. Potentially, 3-year projected for a water tower, I don't know, set that money aside. That's where those kind of items is gonna have to come from.
Yeah, that's where they come
Or
from
grant.
first.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So was the enterprise, there's been an enterprise fund, could use their capital outlay purchases in their departmental budget and like a contingency fund in their contingency line in their
We can go back and
departmental?
set that up that way, but the way the county is set up right now,
Mhm.
everything from, like, even your solid waste enterprise fund, all of the capital outlay gets kind of grouped into one place. We definitely can separate it.
I'm just wondering if we can pull that from that 500,000
I got
overage to cover that cost, whether it's gotta sit in a different fund or not. That's what I was asking, what fund does that have to sit in? Like, can it sit in the enterprise fund, or do you have to make it a budget amendment and move that to like the general fund?
Yeah.
That have certain line items, so we have a contingency fund for equipment that they put it $75,000 in every year, and a capital project.
It doesn't really, here's the bottom line, it don't really matter. Because when we're figuring this budget, even though they were an enterprise fund, when we set that budget, it's set as a general fund budget,
Gotcha,
period.
gotcha.
But that is the thought process. we went through.
Yes.
Yes.
Could either one of those things be purchased, obviously, with y'all's approval prior to transition, or would y'all rather wait?
Well, right now, there's been more questions asked, like, find this number, run that number, what's that scenario versus what the contract price is, those need to be established first. And if
Y'all
the
still
board
out
says, you know
EVA.
what, this does look like a move,
Y'all are still out EVA now.
Well, we were just told before any big purchases happen that we may need to talk to you all.
well, sure, but I think it's within reason to say, okay, let's vet it, and let's see what the pros and cons is versus the cost saving for future run is. Once we've vetted it, y'all vetted it, send that email out to the board and say, look, we really think, now that you see the email, you do see the cost savings for future. We'd like to know, can we go ahead and purchase this? And at that point, somebody on this board will respond, if not multiple people, and they'll say, you know what, I think the IDBA should move forward with that. That would be our consensus. And then the IDBA would vote.
Well, if you had a couple, if you had a damage, if we had a line that's marked, it would pay for itself in 1 or 2 hundred for the fine us more.
Yeah, luckily right now, your locator's not marking it correctly, so if you hit it, you're covered. It's just saying. It's awful. I mean, it's the worst I've ever seen.
Normally, the answer is no. Normally, when you do a capital outlay project, budget request, it's budgeted for the previous year. Sometimes you can get a better rate if it's out early in the current year, and we've done that before.
Yes.
But that's a whole bunch of auditing, budget amendment stuff, but normally, that's how you do that.
What I like to try to do, if I'm gonna do that, is I like to let the company know that, hey, I wanna purchase this, December 30th, but you ain't getting a check till January 1. You know, or December 20th, go ahead and get it ordered, go ahead and get it on the ground, and we'll take possession of it and cut the check in the next budget cycle. We've done that.
Right.
All right, thank y'all. You're good? Good, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yep, enjoy.
They see what you have to do to work with.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. If y'all want to just move over to this table, I won't ask you to stand. You know, we had a girl stand up the other night for 2 hours. Bless her heart, all she had to do so we can hear.
Yeah, I was just thinking, we better over here.
My name's thank you.
Yeah. All right, animal shelter.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for coming.
Okay.
We've never, how long have you been doing this over there with the animal shelter?
I started as treasurer, I think it was in about 5 years.
Okay.
I've been the treasurer over there.
So, to be honest, this is the first time we've ever done this.
The first time y'all have asked us to do
Yeah.
it, so yeah, I appreciate it.
And the main reason, you know, we have a set of checks and balances. You know, we probably won't see you every year. We may see you every other year, every third year. We treat the budget process here no different than we do any of the other departments.
Okay.
We just pick randomly which ones we think we want to see. And because of the social media and the outcry of the MOAS and the citizens, that we felt like, okay, let's bring it before us and let's see what we got.
Okay.
I do have a few questions right out of the gate, and it's pertaining to, first let me introduce you. Commissioner Adams is the Isla District, or Nice District, I guess you could say. Commissioner Chandler, Danielsville District. Commissioner May, who is out in Hull. I'm going to say Brian Curtis. He's not here tonight, but he's also Danielsville, sort of split down in Culver, Tacoma, and all that way. And then Commissioner Dolster, who is in Culver. I guess
So he's probably mine.
He's our metro area commissioner.
Yeah, he's over the metro.
I'm probably geographically of the closest, but technically it's across the line.
So Ms. Glenda Faulkner, you are the treasurer, and sir, you are on the board.
Steve Ledford, I'm on the board, yes, recently joined.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you joining.
So he's got a lot of nonprofit experience.
Oh, good.
I retired recently, have been on a number of boards, that type of thing, and while I was working, basically I was a consultant on operations and management and finance and stuff like that. So,
Where'd you retire from?
a company called The Clearinghouse, which is about as generic as you can get. We run payment systems, direct deposit, probably can't do there, that kind of thing.
So it wasn't publishers.
No.
Okay.
We don't have the.
I'm still waiting on that to come to my house. I haven't seen it.
There was that active name.
Keep purchasing.
That's right.
Checks in the mail.
Green stamp book. So, all right. obviously your largest expense is salary, and the second largest expense is your vet bills.
Yeah, our supplies,
Yeah.
actually, I think is our
So on the,
second largest.
let me figure out which page I'm on here, on the salaries. Wages, is what I meant. How many staff is this number based around? The 369, 693. What kind of staff did y'all have last year?
369, 6.
That's the basic salary.
Yeah, before the taxes, I think it's 404 is your bold print.
Yeah,
I think we have like,
okay.
at full complement, I think we have 5 full-time here. So we're never at full complement.
If I had my laptop in here, I could look right at it and tell you. In hourly man hours this past year, we were running, 571 hours a week, and we had
571 a week, so that's 5.
That's probably, if you
Yeah.
put a full-time equivalent, that'd be what, 13, 14. It's a lot, there's a lot.
But how many full-time employees do y'all have here?
I think we have a complement of 5, but we only have 4 on staff.
so, well, those are salaries.
Yeah.
We have some, and actually it's changing right now. I could pull it up pretty well in my laptop.
Yeah.
One of the things that the girl who is acting director right now is trying to do is cut, she said one of the biggest problems is overtime. So she's trying to cut back on overtime, but she's also trying, we consider 30 to 40 hours full-time. So she's
Yes.
trying to cut back a little bit on some of those,
Do you know how many part-time staff y'all have?
bunch.
Well, I did look at that
That's
number.
paid.
We have folks who are listed as part-time right now. The last time I looked, which was about a month ago, it was 18, if I remember correctly. But some of those, let me put it this way, there is a good bit of turnover. It's a job that not everybody's cut out for, to be honest with you.
Well, I
And it's a tough, heart-wrenching job.
So we're constantly hiring new folks. We're constantly having to replace folks, that type of thing. And so I think the last time I looked, it was about 18 our hourly positions, is probably the best way of looking at it. Full-time was that 5, and we have
It's
some
changed so much. We've
Yeah.
got director, manager, feed to kennel manager,
So Ms.
Jocelyn's not.
Okay.
Ms. Hendricks was here, Erica was here to give us just a presentation a few months ago. She done a very good job.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually had.
What is, she had referenced that basically your part-time people were all just minimum wage? Like,
No,
how much do they make?
Technically not minimum wage, but it's below the prevailing rate around here.
they're making $9.50.
$9.50?
I want to say, can I go get my laptop?
Sure,
Can I bring it in here?
sure.
If I can answer your questions, those questions a lot better with my laptop.
But in general, most of the part-times are between like 983, I think.
Where did you park, on out front?
Yeah.
All right, she'll have to keep the door for you, get you.
Oh, okay. They already closed.
9:50.
Yeah, we'll go, down to
9:50, 10:50.
950, 1050 is probably the average. It could be up to as much as about $12, would be the top end for the hourly paid folks.
What about your 5 full-time employees? What are they roughly making?
You know what, the director is going to be making more than anybody else. Has typically been somewhere in the 50-ish kind of range. Erica recently resigned, and so she's no longer there. We have someone who was making, I'd say, in the 30s, who is now interim, but we're hiring a new director right now to come in. And I would say that some of our criteria have also changed in who we're looking for. We're looking for folks who have maybe a bit more management experience about things like budget control, donor relations, things like that, because these are the areas we need to, you've seen our financials, we need to make sure that we are really getting the right kind of attention on those things. Taking care of animals is the first priority, of course, but you can't take care of animals if you don't have a sustainable operation.
And I'm not, and I hope you understand, the only reason I'm asking this question, I'm just trying to understand your budget.
No,
Because I did reach out to Eric a couple months ago when Facebook had we're struggling, we're not gonna make it into the year, blah, blah, blah. And I said, bring me your budget and I'll help you.
Yeah.
I said, it won't cost you nothing,
Yeah.
bring it to me, and I'll sit down and I'll help you. And any board member here
well,
would.
look this way. I spent 45 years basically in business, consulting, managing things like that. You probably couldn't throw a question at me I've never heard, unless it's about animals. I never did that. And honestly, one of the reasons I joined the board is to kind of help out.
Yeah, I think that's, out of the 23, you mentioned the 18 part-timers, 5 full-timers. You got 23 probably great big hearts, but they don't, this is a different animal. This is budget, this is audits, this is a real deal.
I've been told that's my particular deficit, that I think maybe trade-off isn't worth it.
Yeah, somebody, yeah. And I know she's gonna get some numbers in there. The one that was the most shocking, besides, the wages being, at $400,000, and I'm doing the math thinking, okay, that's 10 people making $40,000 a year. Wow, that can't be that right.
We need to do better there. Just one reason why we are making reduction, we plan to make more as we learn more about how to make the business more efficient. It's just that we know we got to deal with this.
And no disrespect to the lady that just resigned, but that bill is very expensive. And I get it that she had a big heart, she tried to save all that. At some point, you have to understand that you can't spend $7,000.
This has been an area of discussion at our, I went ahead and started talking about some of the background stuff.
Okay, sure.
An area of discussion at our board meeting. One, where do you actually, we came up with a new policy for when we would bring in a vet on something. Part of it's also because of the services we provide, spay, neuter, only a vet can give a rabies vaccination. So we contract with them, but those costs are pretty high. We're looking at, is there a way of making those processes more efficient? One thing we did, we had a problem with folks who would say, I'm coming in for a spay or a neuter, and they wouldn't show, and so we're paying a vet to basically sit there and wait. We have now implemented a deposit, a refundable deposit, that gives a deposit, and it's amazing what that's done to our show.
Exactly.
Kind of like you were just talking about with the reconnect fees, it worked. And so that's going to help with that going forward. We're looking at getting also maybe some, one of our vets is getting on, and so probably need to look for someone to either complement what he's doing, that type of thing. Looking at folks who, if you're pretty good at being efficient, if you're familiar with MASH, remember they used to talk about our jobs to get them in, get them out. That's what we need to be able to do. So we're looking at those things. It's just, we know that it's time, we really need to make sure we're spending your money as well as the donor's money well.
One of the issues we've had, I don't know if y'all are aware, but one of our vet assistants who'd been there since before the building was started passed away about a month ago, Katie Griffith. And so we don't have Katie. And then our other vet assistant has been out because she had a baby. So that's made it hard on doing surgeries. We've got somebody training, we've brought somebody else back temporarily that's going to be able to help with that, but that's just started this week.
Y'all get any help from UGA vet school? For like 24 hours and all that stuff, they don't?
I know we've looked at that, we've done it in the past.
We used to, and seems like there was some kind of issue with
Well,
that.
there was, I remember we talked about this the other night. One of the vets said it was taking more time to oversee them. I think honestly we can do better with that. My wife used to work at the vet school. She has a lot of connections and their ways of doing that. And I think that it's another thing about it, we are looking at maybe expanding some of our sourcing on vets. We can find some folks who are good at working with them because they can do things like some of the prep. They can do things like intubation. And Lord knows, vet students are always looking for a way to do more procedures so they can come off their list.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The relationship there would need to be built between your board and the teacher.
Yes.
The teacher will vet those students. She's not gonna send you students, or I would hope so.
Yeah.
We do it with the work-based learning.
Absolutely.
They say, yeah, I got 20 kids. I'm like, you got anybody that specialized in this? And I said, no. It's okay, I'm good.
One other
The next year
area.
they send you 5.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. In one other area, one of the candidates for director has excellent relationship with the head of the vet tech program over at, Athens Tech. And so we know that we need to build these kind of relationships in order to leverage whatever we can.
But yeah, he's correct, that was one of the reasons we quit using the students before. Seems like there was something else, but
Yeah.
one of our vets that was doing a lot of our work said it was taking away more time trying to teach them and asking them to bring somebody to do the teaching to them, so.
I think
Okay.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That vet should have known that they got there somehow too.
Yeah,
Just to be
Yeah.
honest, so.
Good point.
okay. Right now, we're using 435, this is hourly workers a week.
Hours, not.
Hours.
That's hours. But that is the hours of hourly workers, that does not include the salary. Let's see. Salaries are ranging from $9.25, $9.50, $11.50, $11.14, that's the vet tech, she's full-time. The other one we're bringing in, I think we're gonna pay $13. Most of our kennel techs, $9.50 to $10. We have, right now, we are showing 5 salary positions, one of which is not filled, that's a director position. We've got an interim director who is actually our manager, an interim manager who was our coordinator, she coordinated a bunch of stuff. Shayna Knight is salaried as our grant coordinator, and she's probably fixing to take a leave of absence just to help the shelter out.
And she's part-time, by the way, she's not full-time.
Yeah, she's making $17,900, and she brought in $85,000 worth of grants last year. So she paid for herself several times over. The
That's
catch
right.
is, a lot of those grants are for very specific things.
Sure.
So a lot of them are for the Spay It Forward, where we do free spays and neuters for folks who can't afford it. One of them was for redoing our puppy room, new puppy kennels for the puppy room. But there aren't a lot of grants out there just for general operating expenses.
By the way, grants went up last year 130%. 115%, excuse me. So we're pushing on that. Donations were actually up last year.
Mm-hmm.
Really pushed hard on that. They were up about 15% too, I think. And so we're trying to get more money coming in, but inflation, just especially things like supplies and such, is absolutely crushing us. And that's one of the reasons why we still have a deficit, not as much as last year, but it's still a deficit. And that's what we're trying to find ways to cut the costs too.
Yeah, payroll and our pet supplies and our general supplies were our biggest expenses. And your most controllable expenses. And I think we're making progress on both of them. Right now, we're actually kind of short-handed, believe it or not. Well, like losing Katie and JC being out, because they're still on that schedule.
The credit card fees, who do y'all use for credit cards? Local
Use
bank?
Stripe and PayPal. I think we're using Stripe for online, PayPal for on-premise, isn't that true? Is it the other way around?
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember what is exactly coded to that. We pay most of it, we used to do a lot of our bills with, ACH, direct stuff, and then we got a little paranoid about somebody getting into our accounts. And we looked into credit cards for paying bills and stuff, and we got some that we get cash back on, like we just paid a bill with like $800 that we earned for credit. So it's some of that, I don't remember.
Actually, I think those credit cards, the ones that are in the thousands, honestly, I think those are more just what we're paying for the processing of credit cards.
Yeah, I would check on that.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because your bank fees a lot of times direct from the bank.
Mm-hmm.
are cheaper than these, that you find out though, that says, hey, we'll give you 1%, but there's backdoor fees that you're over 5% when you could have got it from the bank for 2.5%.
Yeah.
But you thought you were getting it for 1 until you got the backdoor fees.
Here's another area we're looking at. We're actually looking at a better way of doing donor and member tracking. And that could also get us a discount on the fees we pay for credit card payments that are used for when someone makes that. And they would also be asking for a donation, so that someone could say, I'll pay the extra 2%, whatever it is, instead of us having to pay it.
The credit card processor we use there at the shelter, it does go through our bank versus.
Okay.
The catch is the ones that we use online, Stripe and.
Do y'all assess a fee for a card use? If they come in to pay for the spade and neuter, do you assess a fee for using your machine?
No.
You need to, it's
I was gonna
state law
say-
now.
Cash price and credit price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, the system that we're considering, they tend to offer that ability as an automatic option.
Yeah.
Right.
If your machine is not capable, if it's an old style machine and you can't do the percentage of 3% and don't want to do that, just go to a flat dollar figure. You
Yeah.
swipe that machine, we're gonna add $3 to it,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But figure out you a number,
Yeah.
because that machine costs you $4,800 you cannot recoup. So you have to pass that along, especially when you're in the business of doing it for nothing.
Nonprofit, yeah.
As a nonprofit, you know. And I think people would understand that.
And my background's in payments, and so it's one of the things on the to-do list to look at.
All right, perfect. You know, the majority of this, we don't run MOAS. I don't have to nickel and dime you. I don't. But if I do see things I think I can help you, is what I do.
Sure.
And we could probably sit down and talk about some of these items outside of this board. Just sit down in my office one day. I don't mind helping at all. But for this board to vote on a budget, and I'm gonna get to that because this is what all this was entailing leading up to the budget. So a couple of years ago, you know, we did do an increase. Right now, I don't have a calculator. My phone's about dead. So do the number of 111,505. Is that right? My bottom line number, is that what we give, 111?
Says 113,000, right? 112,899.
Last year y'all paid us $112,899.
112,899 divided by
113.
100, okay, do 113,000 divided by 30,128.
No, it's 375.
Right, so currently, we're paying, and again, this is gonna take a new contract too, because our contract is way expired.
And y'all have given us increases above
Yeah.
and beyond.
Yeah, so we're at 375, I think the contract reads, 325 per capita. So we're already above it. And I do believe, for one, I gotta say thank you, sir, for coming on board, because I think you're gonna be a valid asset to helping them with some of these items. When it's left up to part-timers, things get out of control. It's really hard to keep a rein on, I get it.
Well, and the other catch, we offer no benefits. We've got one little retirement 401k thing that we were able to offer, but we tried to get insurance. We could not afford insurance. We do offer vacation. We've got a vacation policy, but that little 401k, about the only benefits we've been able to take off.
The clinic is really, most animal shelters are structured with either high school kids or college kids. This only management is taking it home. What is that number times $4? 30,128 times $4.
Are you looking at the 2020 census number?
I'm sorry.
Are you looking at the 2020 census number?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we're almost at 32. For over 32.
Yeah, the contract, and Todd, you weren't there when we negotiated that last contract.
That's right.
John Scarborough.
That's right.
Yeah, the contract said 325, based on the 2020.
To answer your question, the number is 125 and 2.
That's our animal control department.
We ain't got there yet, but
It's just, let's throw a number out.
100,000, 120,000.
we hope that's helped some too, the instrument of the animal control. And
Where I was getting at, asked that question, just to, no one appreciate what y'all do. And this is a hard issue for me, I'm just kind of old school on it. But the big picture for us is we're spending, some $250,000 a year on stray dogs and cats in a rural area. So what I need for y'all's role to be, or to help to move towards, is not just providing this service, but getting us out of the animal control business. Education to the point, and we threw around this, and I hate for government to have to feel like we have to get to this point. But for us to be spending $250,000 to $300,000 of taxpayer dollars for an animal control problem, or for an animal control issue, I real quickly say everybody's required to have every pet spayed and neutered, period, if you're not a registered animal breeder. And I really think that's the direction that our education needs to be moving toward. I want y'all to be moving yourselves out of job. I want our animal control needs to go away.
Well, now, we are not animal control.
I get that.
No, in other words.
We have
Yeah.
that department
Yeah.
because there's a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Y'all services help fix that, or help deal with it. But
And
it's,
actually, I think we used to see a lot more stray cats around our house than we do now, so I think it really is making a difference.
But just to get to your point, and actually it is literally fix the problem, because that
Yeah.
takes care of it. I did no one has ever counted the number of dogs and cats in Madison County. I actually looked into it. But you can use state figures and then make an assumption. And I figure we probably, on an annual basis, spay and neuter about, somewhere between 10 to 15% of the animals in the county. So it helps.
Yeah.
Double that number and you start seeing some real improvements. And that takes education, because you can't force somebody to bring them in unless you're talking about what you're talking about. But if you let them know what's really involved, it helps. And honestly, I'd love to work this place out of a business, because it's sad some of the stuff you have to do.
Sure.
And actually, it has improved in the last 5 years as far as our intake.
Yeah.
We're not,
Susan, what was my recommended number? Because I'm confused on this one.
Recommended was 115,000 for the payment, and then 4,500 for the professional services, which that's good for the spay and neutering, I think. The total 119,500.
okay, well, like I said, on our budget, and that's with us figuring a 5% decrease in payroll from the last fiscal year, 10% decrease in pet supplies, which is mostly pet food and litter, a 10% decrease in all other supplies, which includes clinic and intake supplies, and we operate on a cash basis. Yes, we use credit cards to pay our bills, but we pay them off every month. We have no debt as such, no outstanding debt. When you back out depreciation, that tentative budget we've got still showing a shortfall of $21,450. We do offer the low-cost vaccine clinics, low-cost spay and neuter. We offer free spay and neuter through that grant program, which is our Spay It Forward program. We have a food pantry at no cost for people who don't have the money to buy food for their animals. And we can always use volunteer opportunities. And if y'all would like to come to a board meeting, we would love to have you.
Is your number for your budget, I think I see 751, 193 is your total overall expenses, is that right?
On the budget,
Yeah, the one you mailed us in here says 700.
751 is income.
that's your gross profit. What was your, oh, 806.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
806. So the numbers you sent, is that number factored in after you say a reduction of 5% in salary, reduction of 10%? Is any of that factored into this number?
It is, yes. This is the number we're talking about right here.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
so,
And actually, like I said in that note at the bottom, I backed out the depreciation
Okay.
expense, so the 21,450 is the true.
yeah. Depreciation, honestly, we need to be reserving for that because things
Because
go
capital
bad. Yeah, we
expense.
were talking about that the last speaker, but right now, we have a cash flow crunch. And that's what we're trying to make sure we're dealing with immediately. And then we're going to get on the plan is to get on a more sustainable basis going forward. So that, less subject to surprises.
Now, in 20 and 21, we actually got PPP funds. And that was a huge help
Yeah,
for
what
a couple of years.
ARPA money.
That was a huge help for those 2 years. I've got a golf tournament coming up in 5 weeks. Victoria Bryan, if any of you play, go to our website, sign up. I got a room for 11 more teams, I think.
Yeah, I don't play. I don't even have time to play, so, yeah. But either way, all right, so you heard the situation we're in. I do not want you to think that is an increase over last year.
Yeah.
Is what we're proposing. It's not your target number, I agree. But as I started the meeting off with, I'm 1.1 in the red right now that I've got to try to figure out before tomorrow. And then, I wish I could do more. We will have to have a new contract, only because we're now at whatever the new number is, whatever that total is divided by the census. It has to represent that.
Yeah.
And that's more for legal purposes for a file.
Mm-hmm. Is that something that can be done as an addenda to the existing contract, or does the whole contract have to be redone? Just curious.
I think you could probably just change the verbiage in the original contract, change the dates, change the verbiage, change the.
You do it as an addendum, if it has an expiration date, you do it as an addendum.
Okay.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm not a lawyer, been around a lot.
That's fine. I do believe with her current health and your future health, that I do think your numbers is gonna come a little better in line.
Yeah, I think so. All right, what was it that you suggested, 4,500 on professional services?
1,500 up to 15,000.
And 115.
Yeah.
So a total of 119,500.
And by the way, I know we talked about labor cost and supplies as being the areas where we definitely targeted here. It's not the only things we're going to be looking at. Honestly, we know we gotta do a good bit. Those are the ones that were easiest to identify and put a hard target on. We conveyed that to shelter management already.
Sure.
And Glenda, one thing I was sitting here thinking about, listening to you talk about the fear and the problem that you have with fraud at the banks and that kind of thing. I don't know which banks you guys are with, but, okay, well, First Citizens is a larger bank, and they have a program called Positive Pay. So you can still use your check, but you physically have to go into that program and release that check for payment. So it gives you more control over.
So we use the debit card to pay a bunch of bills.
Yeah.
And then we did the,
And then you use the card.
I go to ACH, and they did an ACH monitor, and then our insurance didn't get paid one time because Liberty Mutual changed their program and kicked it back and didn't accept our ACH. And who was supposed to be watching for those notifications missed it. And we almost lost our automobile insurance, so we cut out that ACH monitor.
Right. Well, I'm not a real good fan of the ACH, but the positive pay is a good alternative that you could look into.
Yeah.
And if you're with First Citizens, they're a large enough bank, they have it.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen,
Y'all
we,
made a comment earlier, and I'm just curious, it got nothing to do with dollar amount, well, it kind of does, but, you mentioned that only I'm gonna use the term true veterinarian can give the rabies shot.
That's correct.
That's a recent law, yeah.
That's real.
Well,
recent,
that's
isn't it?
not recent,
Oh, yeah,
no.
yeah.
Is there,
I started with Gold Kids in 1987 in Macon, and we could sell them to anybody.
I'm old, and so
And
everything's
then-
recent.
About a year or two later, they put that law into effect, and I think it's because rabies is deadly to humans.
Well, it also has to be reported, and so they want to keep track of it. Yeah, but yes.
It was
Is
like
that-
the late 80s when they made that law where it has to be a vet that gives it.
I guess I get the fact that, you know, you should be able to walk into Petco and maybe pick up one.
Used to be able to.
I know, but I'm saying, I can understand somebody saying that doesn't need to happen, but
Well, now you
for
get
somebody that
Yeah.
has a facility like y'all's, you know, it's kind of managed with vet techs and stuff like that, it just seems like it could,
Yeah.
it seems like there's a
I
happy
think the
medium,
vet-
what I'm getting at.
The vet, if the vet oversees it and signs off
Oversight.
on whoever gives it, I think that's okay. I mean, the vet has to sign the thing, they have to know
Yeah.
that who gave it, did it right.
Yeah.
We used to have coon hunters that come in that Gold Kist and buy, 50, 20 rabies shots, and when that law changed, these guys said, well, hell, I'm just not gonna give them the rabies shot then.
I probably know someone.
guarantee it.
You probably related, you probably related to someone.
All right, so I think you have some things to implement that's gonna change your financial status. You know, passing those credit card fees on to the user.
Yeah,
So
that's the problem.
some of the cuts, and what Dennis was talking about, that, potentially increasing certain fees.
And one thing we did, used to be, we just took PayPal on our website. And then we had, like, when we started doing these, I started doing these golf tournaments. People like my husband, he wasn't gonna sign up online if he had to pay with a credit card. You know? So,
Well, so I did watch
or couldn't pay with a credit card, he wasn't gonna have PayPal.
I watched the Oglethorpe County presentation when you were there, and Julie was there also. She's a very nice young lady, by the way. I've met her several times. And the question was raised by Oglethorpe County, because they don't have animal control holding facilities, and asked, okay, would you all be willing to do the 72-hour hold if they paid you to do that? I don't know that the law will allow you to hold the 72 hours, because I think there has to be a distinction.
Give me this, I got an earful of this.
Well,
But if the law don't prohibit you from doing it, and you had space available,
that's
Take
one
it-
of the big gets.
well, it is, but take advantage of that payment from them.
Well, they
Okay,
haven't actually given us
Well,
a proposal.
I'm an Oglethorpe resident,
Yeah.
and so if maybe I could fill something in. The amount they were talking about was not, I mean, they've never gone out with an actual amount, but it's on a per dog basis. There'd be a lot of capital expenditure up front. Not only is it we don't have the number of facilities, but it's a different kind of licensing, a different kind of facilities you have to do with the Department of Agriculture for. So it would cost a decent amount up front to do that. What they're talking about is more on an as-needed basis, and honestly, we just don't have the reserves to make that kind of capital expenditure. We'd also have to have certain staff trained for dealing with rabies situation, dangerous dog, and all that.
You have to, very specific
Yeah, so
facilities.
it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Well, you also have to keep in mind now, not every dog they pick up's got rabies, not every dog they pick up's
No,
is
but
dangerous.
spike takes.
But you have to be able to handle them.
Be able to handle those spike takes. by the
You could
Department of Ag.
pick and choose what you want to reject,
Not if we're the designated facility is what I'm.
only if you're designated. But if you're a contract service, they're gonna call you and say, hey, I got a little puppy right here we found on the side of the road, and we're gonna pay you $75 a day to keep it, because we don't have a place to store it.
By the way, honestly, if someone would fund it, I think that could be a viable option. So we are having discussions with Oglethorpe County, but if they are designating us as their impoundment facility, we kind of have to take all the cases. They have a situation where, because they don't have anything, the Department of Agriculture is looking into whether the Sheriff's Department is taking things in. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, it's, yeah.
It's a, you know this because you have an animal control facility. But as a contractor, they might be able to work out something with the surrounding county to take all cases, but they have to have a way of dealing with.
Well, I know that they're potentially talking about building a whole facility.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a manpower issue to be able to staff that.
Yeah.
And now they got employment, but I don't know that they want to be able to hold everything. Like ours holds about 20.
Yeah.
And it stays full too.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Like I said, I live in it's okay if I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, we have a dog problem. Yeah.
I close the gate before it's hard.
Yeah. We have a dog problem, and right now, what folks are being told is the Sheriff's Department can't handle it. We don't have an animal control officer, a code enforcement officer who can only be gotten in touch with certain times. So it's an issue. It's gonna be dealt with. It needs to be dealt with. We would consider it. I think we talked about it, but it would take an upfront capital outlay. Don't know if they'd be willing to.
I would bring USDA in on that discussion and say, could you mediate this conversation of what we can and cannot do?
That's a good idea, yeah.
That's gonna be the best thing. And that way they said, yes, you can do it as a MOAS, no, you cannot do it as a whatever. Have that mediator. And we have some great USDA people around here.
Hey, USDA.
Trish Adams.
GDA.
She's retired.
GDA.
GDA, yeah.
Yeah,
GDA, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I used to work with Trish.
yeah.
Years
And
ago.
we know that, we know that, Oakland has been talking with the, GDA. So, I mean, there's something gonna have to happen. The proposal where we would just use our existing facilities and then take additional dogs on a per dog basis, it won't meet the requirements, but also we don't have the expense to fund it up front. And that's really what it comes down to, honestly.
Well, and you know what? They may be willing to front that upfront cost for you.
Yeah.
I think y'all need to have a round table, have that mediator
Yeah.
be the you can and you can't person, the legal advice.
Good idea.
And I think y'all gonna come to a pretty good solution, because they're willing to spend some money.
Okay.
And I'm friends with Chairman Paul down there, and I know their financial situation is a little different than ours because of the way their income's based. They only get 20%, 26% of the tax base. The school system, they get 24%. The school gets 76, they get 24.
Yeah.
So their hands are tied, but they're not so tight that they won't be able to invest in you to save them money. That's what I mean.
Yeah, they were talking about pulling money out of 2017 SPLOST and the 2020 SPLOST for other things, and that meeting the other night.
But anyway, all right, I think, any other questions, gentlemen?
I'm curious on your long-term plan.
Mm-hmm.
Foot traffic.
Yeah.
You know, does foot traffic, in your mind, you know, if there's additional foot traffic that comes to your facility, would you say yes or no to the correlation that the more people that can visit, the more people are going to adopt or participate or move, or is it going to be more aggravating? The reason I'm going with that idea on that idea, where I'm going with that is, I for a long time thought, even though we're a rural county, and I know we'll be rural, but I still think there's an opportunity, I don't want to put it in the rec department, but there's a lot of space out there with the landfill and a lot of space out in front to do maybe a couple of dog kennel, dog park type things.
We actually, at one time, had a former board member who was gonna do a dog park over there, kind of toward the direction of that fire training facility. And they got started and somehow nothing ever came of it.
Well, I remember somebody coming saying they were putting in for a grant to try to get the equipment and stuff.
Yeah, I know Oconee County did a big park. Scott Berry had a large part in that.
Well, and I've done some, my capacity is my typical 8-to-5 job. And I mean, I know young people like them, their parents feel safe,
Yeah.
you know, you go commiserate with your other teenagers, whatever, and I know.
I want to say liability was a little bit of an issue. I don't know any details. Most of that was before my time on the
I
board.
think it was Michelle Kay that was talking about that there several
There
years
was
back.
The guy that was right when we came on board here, a young black-headed guy, was the director of the facility then. He gave a whole presentation
Oh, yeah.
that he had secured a grant for a fenced dog park that was going to be over there, but
Now,
That
when
was
was
before
it?
Erica.
3 years ago? 2
he
years
was only here about 3 or 4 months,
Yeah,
and he
he
came
was.
in and then he was,
Well, it just about had to be Andrew.
It was
I don't-
Andrew.
I don't remember
Andrew.
Andrew getting the grant for a dog park.
But it actually, we're looking for ideas to, because one of the things, if we can get more animals going out of the shelter, that creates more capacity for when they come in.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff like that. And so and honestly, you put some cute kittens in front of fun folks as opposed to them having to come to you.
Yeah.
It'll,
We used to have more events there at the shelter, and I think that was good for getting people adopted. We had Halloween, and they brought their animals and dressed them up in costumes, and we had awards. And we have Santa Paws, which Katie Griffith's husband, Joe, and he says he's still gonna be Santa Claus. He's the best Santa Claus in the world for dealing with those animals. But we used to have a lot more events there. We've got a group now that's wanting to do a yard sale there. That'll bring, because we've done some yard sales in the past, and it doesn't cost us any money, and it brings some in, and it brings people in. I'm one of the believers we get people there, just like you said, and we're gonna get some animals adopted. And we've got that 95.3 WEGG, they're doing a pet of the week, and that's gotten a couple of our animals adopted. Southern Hardware and Comer is sponsoring it right now.
Well, I saw that they had a tent set up in Danielsville, or under the tent, they had one member there. But it was the same guy every time.
You mean in the farmer's market there? He was a former board member.
That's right.
Guy.
Yeah, guy. But he
Yeah.
was there every
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
That was the only guy I saw there.
Yeah.
You know, it would have helped to have puppies there,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
2 weeks not this Saturday, but the next Saturday, we're gonna be, for example, at the, Southern Brewing Brewtastic,
Yeah.
We'll have a number of folks there, we'll have some dogs there, and the fosters with, and that type of thing. They got me there by saying there'd be beer, but, we are planning on doing more of that kind of stuff. I mean, we know we gotta get the dogs out of there too.
So do you all have to pay, or do you get reimbursed when y'all go to Connecticut? Do they pay you for that trip, or is it just something that you're willing to eat the expense to be able to free up the
People
kennel
pay
space?
$450 to adopt a dog up there.
I know, but what do we get paid to take them up there? Or is it just something?
You charge for transportation.
We just make some money off the adoption.
There's an expense to get up there, and then there's the dog that is adopted. It generally does end up being profitable, but there is an expense to get there.
We make money, but we haven't done that in a while because the van we've got now, we don't trust to go up there. And, somebody's supposed to be getting it checked, but it's got like 183,000 miles on it.
Ain't nothing no more. You're right, it's a Sprinter van.
Well, we've got a couple of people who said they would look at it and check it out, to make sure it'd be okay, but just haven't got around to it. We've been short on the board, and honestly, we've got several board members like myself that have been on the board for 4, 5, 6 years. And, we're getting some new board members in now, like Steve, Kiri, Andrea, Emily, and they're all real enthusiastic. So,
Is Sherry Hines still on your board, or she just do?
yeah, she's still on board.
Hmm?
She's not president anymore, but she's still on the board. Danny Burgess is board president now. She works over at Commercial Bank with Joe Fortson.
All right, any other questions, gentlemen? All right, we're gonna wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for inviting me.
I'll adjourn this meeting.
Oh, you said you had something, you wanted to talk a little bit about insurance.
Yeah.
You had the thing you were gonna give us.
Yeah. So,
We do appreciate it.
Thank
We
you so much.
appreciate your input.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I gotta make a call tomorrow. And we priced our insurance, and our insurance come back $100,000 this year higher on property liability insurance. We've been with Chastain and Associates, since 1982. Long time. And,
That's who we use, this channel.
yeah, and we didn't get those numbers from Chastain. They didn't contact us about asking for paperwork until, July, I guess. 1st of July, they wanted to set up a meeting. I want to say that meeting was on August 1st. At that time, you know, everything, because it's been going on for 40 years, it's like sign here, oh, by the way, got $100 increase. I'm like, whoa, because that's 25%. I mean, we've been paying, well, more than that, actually. Last year was 300.
It was a 33%.
Yeah, last year was 300,000, and this year's 400,000. So I was like, okay, wait a minute, we need to look at how to save some money here. I said, what if we take the deductible from $2,500 on automobiles to $10,000? What if we take our building deductible from $10,000 to $25,000? They come back and they said, we reran the numbers, and this was it was 300. It ended up being 374,000 instead of 400,000. Lacey went through every structure, every vehicle. We removed vehicles that y'all take care of, that we had been paying for, that had been sold, somehow didn't get updated in the system. But anyway, right now we are exact with our numbers. We had more taken off the policy than we put on. So in my mind, me and Christina had already been talking about it. I think Susan had been involved in those conversations of looking at ACCG to do our insurance. ACCG currently has 119 counties in Georgia insured. They don't have really anything in the metropolitan area insured because most of those guys have got so much money, they don't care. But anyway, 119 out of 159 counties is insured by ACCG. I said, okay, I really wasn't going to do it, but it's time for checks and balances. So we get in touch with ACCG, and Lacey's been jumping through hoops every day for 6 or 7 days, trying to get it to them so we could have a meeting today at 1:30 with ACCG, and they came back with a number. It's laid on my desk. I don't have it. I think it was something like back to 300.
325 or something like that, because it's like a 50, it was either 350 something, because it was like a $25,000 difference.
That's right, 351, and if we chose to raise the deductibles to 10 and 25 versus what they are now, it would go to 304.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. But now that we're in August, they run a July calendar, so our 24 numbers looks like 274 versus 304 or something like that. What, I'm wrong?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, that was the number, because the prorated number we got was 274 versus 304. So my question to you guys is, it's more of a long-term commitment. When we sent the information to ACCG, we removed all the dollar figures, so they could not see those. They just saw our coverages and our plans, and that's what they priced. And that was just being fair to Chastain.
Sure.
Well,
$80,000 is a lot.
This would be maintaining, I agree that we need to apply some due diligence in researching premiums and all. I would be hesitant because of the length of time we operate vehicles here and the age of some of our buildings, increasing the deductible, because everything we do then is going to be.
Well, I'll tell you,
a flat fee.
so the reason for the potential increase of the deductible is we've done a loss ratio study, and we really don't have claims. I mean, our claims is very minimal, even with the car crashes and the deers being hit. This past year was one of our most expensive years in the past 10 or 12 years. It's because we had that one $50,000 machinery gets stolen. I agree with what Dennis is saying. The only other time we've used them on a building was when, this past year, when the lightning hit and burned up the fire alarm system. That was $35,000. But we've gotten to the point now, with vehicles especially, every time they hit a deer, it's like $2,800. The deductible's $25. Just fix it. Just fix it, so we don't have to take the claim, so we don't try to raise our ratios up. I'm more concerned, I really don't care which way we go with the deductibles at this point, but I've got till tomorrow.
But you said ACCG is maintaining the deductible where we're at now, not increasing the deductibles, correct?
Correct. The same deductible is $350,000 premium, increased deductible is $300,000 premium.
Yeah. But ACCG is $50,000 less. Than
$50,000 less than our current provider at the current.
Well, the current provider was $400.
At the current coverage.
With the current deductible, but if we change the deductible, they go to $374.
Yeah, okay, now ACCG, what's the deductible?
If the
It's
deductible stays the
$350
same,
if the deductible stays the same today.
Like 300 or 325, 25,000.
No, it's $300, $303.
That's what you said, if we increase the deductible.
You're comparing 400,000 to 350.
Yeah.
And 375 to 300.
That's right.
Those are the.
right.
the two
That's your
different-
deductibles factored in.
If you leave the deductible where it is 400 to 350 savings.
Now, there is,
On our building deductible, we talking about going up to 25 and it wasn't 10.
yes,
So 3 incidences. And so how many incidences, how many building incidences, how many building claims do we have?
we've had one building claim in 40 years. It was the fire alarm system,
Fire alarm
$35,000.
But so it would take 3 claims in a year to make up that difference in premium.
It's the only time you're gonna cross the $10,000 threshold is if a tornado comes through and tears your roof off.
Yeah, here's a question, and we deal with this in Farm Bureau Insurance. Are any of those providers, are they good about, so in that kind of situation, are they gonna be a sticker on $25,000, this building, the gym, the rec department offices, or are they gonna say, whoops, $25,000 one time, this is all one claim?
And it's based off the claim.
Based off the incident,
No,
or is it based off the building?
well, just like vehicles, if you've got a $10,000, oh, no.
The way we talked about this and the same kind of concept, because we were looking at the buildings and what they have it per square footage. Well, some of these buildings like EMS station, that's some tin and a little bit of drywall, to where you got, like this building is a lot more meatier. So they do an average cost, and then they say, okay, well, if this courthouse gets destroyed, we have to rebuild that whole courthouse, we have $45 million in buildings that is covered. So it's one claim, and even though they have this building valued at 8, and they said, we understand it may take 10 or 12 to replace this building, we're going to pay the 10 or 12 to replace it, because it fits under that $45 million for all.
The total gross pay.
But when you talk about like a tornado or a massive flood that comes through, are they going to charge us $25,000 per
For
building?
each building.
Yeah.
I don't think it's structured.
The way the policy's written,
Yeah.
they're gonna do that.
Yeah.
But the question is, with the relationship that we have, well, either one of them, is that gonna be to the letter, or are they gonna say, this is just one instance?
See, the
That
main,
kind of thing would make a difference.
yeah, the main difference between ACCG and, say, Chastain's is having to go out and find a insurance provider. They're just a broker. Where ACCG is not a broker. It's a pool of money put together by all counties.
It's self-insured.
It's basically self-insured, but it's made up by counties. So that's why there's such a drastic difference in the price. Now, there's 2 things that I've seen so far that don't match. One is Chastain gives you a coverage of zoning. there's a policy for zoning that you're covered in. That was used on the crematorium. When they got sued on a zoning matter, it did cover that. ACCG don't have a zoning policy, coverage, but what they do have is they have the requirements for the policy written so tight that you should not need them. It's like this law says you can't do this law says you can't do that. Now, if you go above that, then obviously you're gonna incur the cost. But the second thing, that was a plus for Chastain was they do cover zoning. The plus for ACCG is they do cover flood and
Earthquake and.
flood and earthquake.
Acts of God.
Acts of God.
Yeah.
They cover those where Chastain does not. Now, honestly, the flood insurance would really come in handy going back to the old topic over there on that road with that dam. Had it stayed full and it busted and went down there to the house down below it, our flood insurance would have covered that. Because it was our dam that broke and we fixed anything in its way. But the reason I'm torn, I'm normally not torn on money. I'm looking at potentially $100,000 savings. And I know on $22 million, it's not in the grand scheme of things. I do feel like it is. Where I'm torn is you got a 42-year relationship going brand new. But it does seem to be the trend with 119 counties.
We've got a long relationship with ACCG, it's just not in this particular arena.
Yeah.
Just not, under the property liability insurance.
I mean, it was hard. Look, we changed, and I think all y'all know this, we got away from MSI, with our, health insurance after 20 years. But the math just didn't work.
Well, we've done the same thing, though. We've looked at long-term contracts with the tax commissioner's office. And we changed who we used in there, health insurance, the retirement for the EMS. At the end of the day, I think that we're charged with the responsibility. We're in here debating whether we're going to give the animal shelter $115,000 or $122,000. We got a $7,000 thing that we talked for 45 minutes about, and we can't figure out that we're saving $50,000.
No, we can. I just wanted y'all to understand how.
I mean, I can do the math there, and I don't need my phone.
I know not to confide, but Dennis Adams is my Dr. Phil.
But you got, I have no problem looking at ACCG with the, GERMA. I mean, that's what it is, Georgia Insurance Risk Management. That's what it is, right?
Yeah, they'd actually call it IRMA.
Well,
Starts with I.
I think that's the,
Insurance Management Risk. Something.
Yeah.
I think IRMA is kind of like a.
That's what they are, they're an
I
insurance
think
risk.
IRMA is just the Georgia version of it.
Correct.
The only thing that, it's a self-insurance pool is really what it is. I guess the question would be is, how do you budget the deductibles? We just consider it as an umbrella policy and put $100,000 in side insurance. And so whether it's 2 cars and 1 building or whatnot, we got a pool of money that's already budgeted.
I can get that question answered in the morning, no problem.
Well, at the end of the day, and it's not all laurels for us, at the end of the day, we collectively have managed to have a substantial reserve on hand where that's not an issue. We've got $2 million essentially in the bank, and what we draw off the interest on that is our reserve to cover the deductible.
And I don't disagree with that. I guess from a line item kind of thing, I'm not saying we got that there. We don't have to just suck out $100,000 or $200,000. But if you start budgeting, I'm just gonna say $20,000 a year, that goes into a contingency fund account.
For self-insurance.
For self-insurance, it just, every year you budget $25,000 or whatever, you pull off some of it, you do, you know? And that goes away, it gets, what I'm trying to do is separate kind of your rainy day savings to your general fund
Yeah.
that you should be able to use more.
So that conversation you're talking about would be the equivalent of a catastrophic medical insurance policy where you just, we're gonna create a big pool that, our deductible is just gonna be really huge. And that brings our insurance premium way down.
And so you basically,
You can eventually
you
cap
kind of
it.
self-insure for smaller things,
Right.
and then you got them to back you up on the big things.
Right.
And it's just, in my mind, from a financial standpoint, you separate that, kind of like the enterprise fund, you separated that, even if it's all taxpayer money, but you separate it, so when somebody says, how much fund balance we have that we can spend down because we've
Right.
done well,
Right.
you can say, well, instead of $10 million, we got $975,000.
We got 20 million,
You keep that separate from somebody that just says, hey, let's go repaint the building. No,
And you know,
can't do that.
You're right. Had we had done this in the years past, a lot of our budget now is, we're budgeting for just in cases, or because we did not. We wasn't proactive up front like what you're talking about now. I agree with you 1,000%. That's probably what needs to happen. We should have done that on our, R&M. All of our building, R&M, should have been this type of fund set up to where if the AC unit goes out, no worries. You didn't have to budget for that year, because there's a line item that's been rolling for years. It's there, go get it. So, yeah, okay, good.
Well, we're gonna be faced, here again, we're gonna be faced with challenges. While they're not like this, they're similar in the sense that over the next year or 2 years, and when we've touched on it, a couple of things. We've talked about the creation of a county manager administrator, the zoning and planning director's position. Tonight, we touched on the thing that at some point, we're gonna have to have a person in-house that while they may not be the engineer that physically draws the project, they will be the person in-house that looks at it and says, yeah, this is a go, this is what we need to do. And those are things that I believe that we're gonna have to look for monies to do that because, you know, growing pains are what they are. You've got to change clothes to fit the person you are now, you know.
All right, so, that being said, I think I've got a consensus, I think I understand what we're saying, clearly. Now to the next part. Next part is, in the morning before lunchtime, we have to submit an article to the newspaper, with our millage intent.
Well, we have to.
Well,
The state deadline.
Okay.
for advertising.
Or we ask for an extension.
now,
So they say if you have it's within 3%, if your tax revenue increases less than 3%, you only have to run one ad for 1 week, your 5-year history, that first big blue sheet you got the last meeting, you only have to run it for 1 week. If it is higher than that 3%, you have to have 3 public hearings over the course of 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
So either one of those is fine, and we've normally always done 3 public hearings. That is due to the state, the end of August or beginning of September, is when that millage, the county is supposed to set their millage rate. We send that paperwork to DOR, it's the PT 32 forms. We can ask DOR to do an extension to the end of September, and that's what I think you're getting at is if.
go ahead, you're doing a good job. No, I appreciate it.
Because if the board isn't wanting to roll back, do that full 0.6192 rollback, then we need to know if you're not wanting to roll back at all, what you're wanting to do, so we know how to meet the legal requirements for advertising and the DOR.
So here's a question I have. Where is the $1 billion more?
It's spread out, the night we adopt the budget, or we can do it in the next budget hearing. We can bring them all in and show you. Everybody's just creeping up.
Yeah,
They're creeping up, but they're not asking for more of anything. It's mainly creeping up and just cost of material, whether it be office supplies, paper, you name it, clothing.
Right, I fixed 10% of that in the rec department's budget. I mean, I fixed that 10%. Now, so, but the rest of it I haven't seen.
right.
What's the diff, all right,
So,
the $1 million, whatever, or 1.1 or whatever, what percentage of that is cost of living payroll?
Whatever 3% of base, about 8 million is,
yeah,
because that's what our payroll runs, isn't it?
Right.
It's about 8.
yeah.
240,000.
Yes, sir.
The numbers there. Just hang out with Mark Perry. He's the only person I know seen spit numbers out that fast.
That's
Mark
just
Perry
like-
can
that's
do
just like
3
times
and
3.
8, yeah.
I'll fix it.
Yeah.
But, so one button number I didn't run was she said as long as you're within the 3%. What is the 3%?
We're at 1.9.
1.92%,
Yeah.
right?
Or 1.92% increase. So you're not talking, and that's $229,000 is 1.92, so you're not,
Yeah.
we could roll it up to 2.8, 2.9, that's a very gray area you wanna play with the state, with DOR, all that kind of stuff. But you can roll that, that's not gonna be
It's already enough to cover it.
$75,000.
Yeah.
So,
So what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting a 0, or are we suggesting the 0.619 or whatever 91
Yeah.
that we?
well, it's gonna be, we tend to bring in more than we anticipate.
Than we anticipate.
And we have, for the last 2 years,
We
had
have.
less.
We have.
And a lot of that's been open positions. I don't know how much more that's going to continue.
It is my gut feeling that we're gonna be okay rolling it to 0 and not having to do the extra meeting. If this election year goes the wrong way, in any way, shape, fashion, or form, it's just gonna be a shot at all. And the worst case scenario is we're gonna have to do a massive budget amendment. But we have the money to
Yeah.
meet.
As we say, we've been rolling that interest on that treasury money, we've not spent
Yes.
interest, we just keep rolling it.
So,
And I talked to Susan a little bit this afternoon, that $1 million overage has some of our capital outlay projects and purchases for next year in it. It doesn't have everything, but we can even present that separately, and we can present that capital project to be purchased with the interest from the treasury bond. That doesn't have to be put into your operational budget.
she's 100% correct.
There's a few things, there's some stuff you can do there.
Yeah. Just because it's capital outlay and we're saying we think we need to purchase something for $50,000, or we sure would like to have it, it'd be nice to have it, don't mean I got that. I'm not depending on that particular item.
Well, and we've got some SPOS money, there's not a whole lot, because, we're getting towards the end, and that's something that the board can say, okay, before we, all capital projects expend all SPOS money, we understand we may run out the fall of 25 or the beginning of, 26, and so you've had time to kind of recuperate that interest off the treasury money. There's a lot of different things you
Yeah,
can do.
there's different avenues that we can take. I mean,
But I do personally feel, in talking with Susan, she's been panicking about it. I've not quite been panicking about it. I'm concerned, but I do feel like between the options that we have to pull from, and then the worst case scenario, it's not worth stressing over. Roll it to 0.
What?
So the total tax digest has gone up. How much new
12
revenue,
million.
I mean,
12 million. But now, our cut of that's not, but 1 point.
the difference from last year to this, what we're proposing is $230,000.
Yeah, for new construction.
For new,
So at zero, we would anticipate $230,000 increase
Increase.
in revenue.
Correct. Correct.
And you're saying based on the budget so far, we have $1.1 million more expenses.
More expensive.
Is that over that 250,000 additional revenue, or is that over where it was last year?
No, that'd be
No, that-
over.
The 230,000 revenue.
And then, you know, and of course, like you said,
I think we're gonna get to 900 in the red, and if you take off the 238, you're gonna be somewhere around 600. That's where I think you're gonna be at. But in that red, there's options. Do I wanna buy that capital project, or do I?
This 230 is in the revenue. This 230 is in the revenue numbers.
correct.
So you don't have
Oh, is-
230 to take off of that.
Okay.
I don't.
So it
I already
is at
worked
around
it in.
9.
Right, right.
9.
I mean, honestly, I'm with Todd. I think we'll be okay because, I mean, we do tend to bring in more than what we anticipate. We try to be conservative when we're doing
That's
that.
at zero. Correct, not having the point.
Yeah.
6.
You're not
Right.
budgeted down on the income side.
Just rolling it back to 0.
I really don't see,
Zero ain't really zero, is it?
No.
You got-
No,
you got
zero
the-
is-
You got,
0 to 3% is
Yeah.
0.
Yeah, for DOR.
that's still gonna have your mill rate at 9,
0.1577.
yeah, 9.1 is at 0.
Yes.
And what was it last
Yeah.
year?
Last year it was 9.777.
You're technically reducing.
So that
the
we're
rate by
still
half.
reducing,
Yes.
And make about 0.6.
we're still, we are essentially reducing our taxes for our friends at the BOE because of the position they're in and what they want to do and increase theirs.
Now, they're actually still talking to the reduction.
So in 4 years, this board has rolled back 3.6 mills.
We've done it every year.
Yep.
This will be the least of which, right?
Yes, the smallest rollback.
We're talking about holding it the same. I thought I read in the
Yeah.
paper, they said they was gonna hold it the same, but I'm being told
I
they're probably gonna hold
I
it.
believe I read where they were increasing.
No, they're gonna have a revenue increase, because if they hold it the same, they're bringing in 17.4, and if they hold it the same, they'll bring in 19.6.
That's kind of one of the options we're kind of presenting to y'all, is do you want to hold the millage rate the same, and then there'll be a tax increase, because we'll bring in more.
If we hold it the same, we would bring in 909,000, I think,
More than
than we did.
with buyback.
Yeah.
Which would give us, if we are projecting, or if we do have some savings in our budget, gives us a reserve that we could look to in the event that there's something that we have a claim or anything like that, then are we saying what we would like to do, hold the same? I mean, we've done, like I say, rollbacks 3 years.
Well, and I can say too, that one,
Everyone knows everything's gone up.
yeah, well, and that $1.2 million deficit was discovered today.
Yeah, because I forgot to spend it.
So we found out about it today, so there hadn't been time to sit down and look at it.
Todd and I both kind of have been scrolling through the thing, and I have reduced some things, you know, trying to condense it down a little bit more. And I'm sure you probably will see some more that we can
I still
do.
wanna gamble, and it's just my personal opinion, I wanna roll it to 0. And I do feel like that we're going to be okay. And how long we can maintain that, I do not know.
That would be my
Well,
preference.
you know, I think that's gonna depend on where we end up at the end of this year after this election.
I agree. But worst case scenario, we still have one of the strongest reserves we've ever had in this county. And
We also have
I
some
know
ambitions,
seniors are
we also have some ambitions for some hefty construction project.
Oh,
absolutely, absolutely.
So I guess, without knowing anything else, just in general talking, you know, if Derek was one sole commissioner, I guess I thought, my thinking anyway is, between holding the millage rate exactly the same and rolling it back to zero, I guess I'm kind of split in the middle because, you know, the 3%, you know, increase on salaries to, you know, maintain staff and stuff like that, to me is fairly reasonable and defendable. We've been rolling them back for a while, so, you know, everything's going up. And so to me, it just kind of cast the in-between mode of, you know, we have been rolling back. We're continuing to roll it back. It's just not as much as it has been.
Well, the one thing to think.
But I understand it shows the tax increase.
Right.
Well,
The other
But then
thing to
again,
think
you go pay
about.
your sheriff's, I mean, you tell your neighbors,
That 5-year form.
Yeah, that right here,
no longer.
that tax increase is new property taxes coming in off of new construction, right, is what that $230,000 is.
So,
The other thing in regards to projects that we've discussed and have on, there's a means that we haven't, in my time here, we haven't broached and seriously discussed, and that would be to go with a bond finance, some of the things, and spread the real capital projects,
Right.
not buying a piece of equipment, but large construction projects, spread it out over years, which is the norm.
Right.
I mean, you know, we don't have a big box cash cow sitting out there that's
Right.
dumping $100,000 a month in sales tax in our coffers, you know.
Well, that's gonna be coming. And I think y'all may have remembered an email coming from Michael Moore to jail of an expansion. That's gonna be somewhere around 15-20 million. But that ain't this year, it ain't even next year. It may not even be in the next 3 years, but, it's filling up and they're working on it. But hell, it was full before they ever.
Well, we've got the discussion on the jail, we've got the road department move, we've got the rec department. At some point, we're gonna have to recognize that this courthouse is gonna have to grow either this way or somewhere this way. I mean, those are the options, you know, and,
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, I see what you're saying.
either that or farm out our
I mean, but we will
superior
have
court
to.
cases to another county.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the option that none of us particularly look at, this would be headline stuff, is, where do you make government smaller? I mean, we dealt with, animal control of the MOAS tonight. Tuesday night, we were talking about, in my mind, there are areas of government that are essential. There are areas of government that are optional. And those are hard questions. So if I'm looking at, you know, my parents my dad would be 90 years old in October. And he's gonna pay a chunk, and he's looking at that tax bill. So we had a discussion today, so at what point in time am I old enough to not pay the Board of Education tax? And so when I think in those lines, then I need to ask those, okay, so what are the optional services that we provide? And can we, this is not popular discussion, because what happens in government is anytime you start something, and any service that is extended, any service extended is done with a good idea.
Yeah.
But they never go away.
Yeah.
right.
And when I look at a rec department budget, and I take those total dollars and really divide it by the number of people that serve, if we printed that in the paper, there'd be a room full of people. We not really. And I'll just say that just because that's not the same thing with the senior citizen center. And I'm not trying to throw them under the bus. If I look at the dollars expended and the number of citizens served, ooh.
We lost sight of of government services and started becoming, more of an entertainment.
Well, and again, society has done that.
And society's done it to us.
We have taken on, as a government, we've taken on a lot of roles that are not necessarily ours to take on. Police services, no question. That is our responsibility.
I have talked to somebody just recently, in the past 24 hours, and I will tell you that there will be discussion next year about an extended exemption for school tax.
But again, I just throw that out there, because that's one thing that I don't want us to overlook as an opportunity.
We're gonna run numbers on whether it be age-based, whether it be income-based, whether it's a combination of the two. But it is gonna be explored in 2025, and I was shocked by the person that approached me on it, so I'm pretty excited.
All right, what's the announcement tomorrow gonna be?
For the millage rate, it's on you guys. You'll have to tell me. I mean, this is not a vote, this is a consensus.
I'd like
For advertisement.
So for my opinion, I would say we'll look at zero.
I can see all sides of it, it's a struggle, that would be my preference. We would have to work harder to make it a reality. But that would be my preference.
I'm not opposed, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed, I'm just, again,
Everybody here is
when you
right.
slice and dice, you know.
There's a reality here that's hard.
Yeah, but you're right.
Knowing that we have money in reserve, I feel more comfortable rolling back to zero, just knowing that we've got that money. We can have it.
We're in a position where we can do that.
on it.
If it doesn't work, then we know we got what we got to face next year.
You got it. Thank you, gentlemen. Meeting adjourned. That's some good discussions. You gotta get up now. All right, Susan.
Oh, Frank, I don't see you before. A question from, our medical insurance that we do. This is sort of odd, I guess. I suspect we have a lot of employees, I know we have commissioners, that are over 65. Do we pay less per employee?
How you watch, you get a little
Those people are
bit.
already under Medicare, Medicaid.
Yeah, she actually got out.
They can be sure as insured as supplemental.
We left the house, we're trying to go to church.
Well,
Last couple of
I just didn't know if that was ever
She wanted to
considered,
go back to work
that
Monday.
would change the cost of our insurance coverage.
well,
Is that a dream or is that?
That's a dream, because she goes for a million an hour without it being.
Yeah, cut
some
that.
of them will waive the company insurance when
She has to hold on.
when they sign up for Medicare, because it's really stupid for not to cost them.
Every little day, she's trying to do a
But
little
then
bit
you
more,
have a few
complain a little bit less about the thing.
that